Riders. It's the playoffs. That means the games are bigger, and so is the 50-50. Huddle up to riders5050.ca, and you can watch the jackpot grow and get your playoff 50-50 tickets. It's a big Rider Nation touchdown with the playoff 50-50. Go green and go all the way. Everyone wins with the Riders in the playoffs.
License number LR240102.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents the all-new Sportscage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Be a part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936. 6262. The all-new Sportscage. Streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Hey, thanks for being part of the show on this Tuesday. It's the all-new Sportscage. Day one of a chilly Rider practice wrapped up. We're going to get the latest from Dave Thomas here in just a sec as his fingers unthaw from a chilly day at Mosaic Stadium. It is Tuesday. That means we're going to have our Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League report. We'll check in with Benny Walchuk before the top of the hour. And then Arash Madani at the top of hour two. It's Chris Mazurek and Dave Thomas doing the all-new Sportscage today. Barney is off. If you're watching on our stream at sportscage.com, we appreciate it. If it's on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And then anytime we start a fresh stream, you'll be notified. And if you're watching on X/Twitter, did you see the Rogan and Elon Musk interview on Twitter yesterday? Wow, some good stuff there. Give us a follow, and you can watch there as well. All right, let's get right into this. When we had our first guest on a few weeks ago, we ended up talking about the epic long lines at the Rum Hut at the Princess Auto Stadium in Winnipeg. And then also the lack of beer snakes that were happening. We're going to get to that and a whole bunch more. You can find him. He's on X at Bonfire Sports, and he does a daily sports show and does an awesome job. If there's anybody that covers the Bombers and the Jets like anybody else, this is your guy. It's Darren Bombing. Welcome back to the all-new Sportscage. And Darren, I would say you're a writer for the CFL Football Writers of Canada. Is this what you thought would be happening in the West Final, even though the Bombers started 0-4?
No, absolutely not. You know, when a team starts 0-4 and then sits at 2-6 on a short week, going up against a bye-week rested, then West Division leading BC Lions team for a back-to-back, I honestly thought it was going to be a battle for the rest of the season for Winnipeg to make the playoffs. So to see them capture a fourth straight West Division title and host this game for a fourth straight season is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And, you know, the Blue Bombers have had a lot of fortune along the way. They've had a lot of fortune over the last 4 seasons as they try to make it to a fifth straight Grey Cup. But you know what they say, you got to be good to be lucky, and you got to be lucky to be good. This is a very, very good Winnipeg Blue Bombers team and organization, top to bottom. So when they were 0-4 and 2-6 and, you know, the Lions and you know, you're the team you guys cover out there in Saskatchewan, the Roughriders were clicking and firing on all cylinders early in the season, led by Mike O'Shea. They stayed on message. We're only concerned with ourselves. We're going to try to get to 1-0 every single week. And despite losing a lot of really talented players, Dalton Schoen, Adam Bighill probably leading the list for the season, losing those guys, Winnipeg has just kept their nose to the grindstone. Lunch pail, hard hat, off to work they go.
So how did they overcome the deficit? Was it mental, physical, all of the above?
Yeah, I honestly think it was mental. You know, this team prior to Mike O'Shea, I would say, you know, if they were down a touchdown or down a couple scores, the body language absolutely slouched, right? And with Mike O'Shea, we've seen this team mount incredible comebacks. It's the crazy football league. No lead is safe. And, you know, this season I think is a great example that no lead is safe even in the CFL standings. but they know that they're always in the fight. They know that if they just do what they need to do, can't do anything about the past, just focus on the future, that they're going to be okay. I love the way Zach Collaros puts it. He, talks about snap and clear. A lot of athletes use the cliche, just flush it and move on. He snaps and he clears it. And maybe that's kind of an entendre on snapping the football. And, the next play is all you can really focus on. He's thrown a lot of interceptions this year. He needs to be good to, counter the incredibly efficient Trevor Harris. I was so impressed with him in the West semifinal against the BC Lions. Maybe the passing yardage numbers weren't eye-opening, but his play was to me. If Collaros wants to neutralize that Saskatchewan Roughriders offensive attack, Winnipeg needs to do it with their quarterback as well. So snap, clear, and focus on what you can control. That's the way this Blue Bombers team is, and it's all, to reiterate, because of Mike O'Shea and how he's coached this team and built this culture over the last better part of a decade now.
The all-new Sports Cage with Darren Bombing from @Bonfire Sports joining us. We're talking all things Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Outside of the act of God and the gust of wind out of nowhere when Montreal punt, here's the thing where I went, uh-oh. Not that Winnipeg wasn't for real, but the way that they were able to come back in that game, and they were able to stop Montreal twice from gaining a first down to get the ball back so they could kick that field goal. And I'm like, that's what a good team that knows how to win does. So this is 6 Western Finals, 4 at home. Like, the nucleus is there, and the Riders have been playing some really good football, but the Bombers have as well. Is there anything that worries you about the Bombers come Saturday when we finally kick off the West Final?
I honestly think it's just kind of the history between these two teams. And the trend has been the Rough Riders have lost pretty much all of their games in recent memory here in Winnipeg. Going back, I can't remember what the streak is at. It's at 6 or 12 or something like that. And Winnipeg is won all of these West Finals over, recent memory. So it's pro sports. Nothing lasts forever. And I think, every dog has its day. And that's not to call anybody a dog in this. There'll be 2 dogs in a fight. I think it's going to be a really physical game. But the only thing that really concerns me, as far as, from a Blue Bombers fan perspective, is that nothing lasts forever. But that said, with where they started and where they are today and how they've been playing, rifling off 8 straight wins before losing to the Toronto Argonauts in Week 19, said a lot about this team and the type of football that they're capable of playing. But any given Sunday, any given Saturday afternoon, we're going to see it go down at Princess Auto Stadium, and I have no doubt, this will be a very, very close football game.
Darren Bombing joining us, of course, as we count down to kickoff between the Riders and Bombers. It seems like forever, but it's going to be here before we know it. When you look at the Bombers, Darren, statistically on the defensive side of the football, they are tops in most defensive categories. What makes their defense so good?
Well, it's different this year than it was in past years. They call themselves the dark side defense. And I don't know really what goes into all that, but there's some strong personalities on that side of the football, as we know in the CFL, so often there are. But in years past, when Richie Hall was the defensive coordinator, it was led by a ferocious pass rush. Willie Jefferson, Adam Big Hill, a lot of good players and a lot of pressure on quarterbacks. Richie Hall is still in the building. He's no longer the defensive coordinator, but keeps a close eye on first-year defensive coordinator Jordan Younger. And while you go from Richie Hall, who is a safety, of course, as Riders fans know, during his playing days in this league, Jordan Younger is also a defensive back and played a little bit more close to the line of scrimmage. So it's interesting kind of looking at that different approach that they take to defensive football. This Blue Bombers defense is really led by the back end. And it's Dietrich Nichols, Evan Holm, Canadian standout this season, Tyrell Ford, A handful of others that are really, really good. Reddick Ramsey, a Canadian playing the dime or strong side linebacker spot. They only tend to rush 3, sometimes 4 players at the quarterback. And they'll rotate guys around, and you never really know who those 3 or 4 will be, but that's generally what they do. And they cover very well downfield. Football people will call those cover sacks or cover pressures. And where Richie Hall would implement a lot of exotic twists and stunts and blitz packages, this Blue Bombers defense just lets Willie Jefferson and his crew up front do what they do and allow that, and really is led by that back end. Dietrich Nichols, I think, is right up there with Roland Milligan as the best defensive backs in the CFL today. I would even probably call those 2 guys 1A and 1B. So it's a different approach, but that's how Winnipeg is doing it this year. Losing Adam Bighill for the season was a really, really tough pill to swallow. Is he at that same elite athletic level he was during his most outstanding defensive player seasons? No, but his eyes are his best weapon. So he's still able to help his teammates and kind of be a little bit of a player coach, even though his playing season is over. Tony Jones has been outstanding. And we look towards the depth chart coming out on Friday. I know you guys will be waiting for it, just like me, kind of hitting refresh on the email to see who's in and who's out. And for Winnipeg, Kyrie Wilson, who was ready to return off the 6-game injured list in the Labor Day Classic, and in the third and final meeting of the season between Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, and something happened in warm-up, and he hasn't played since. So he is very close to returning. Getting Kyrie Wilson with Tony Jones in the linebacking core really helps this Blue Bombers defense out a lot.
All right, we're talking Bombers, Riders, and the all-new Sports Cage with Darren Bombing from Mad Bonfire, Winnipeg. You mentioned him, Tyrell Ford, and if there's a guy, now keep in mind, Roland Milligan was getting all the headlines all season, but if there is a guy that quietly, it's not if you're a Bomber fan, it wasn't quiet, you watched it all along. What a progression he has made. And to me, I think he's your defensive secret weapon. All the other guys may have a little more namesake, but it just seems like whenever a play needs to be made, and it wasn't just the interceptions, and they were good, the knockdowns, the coverage, or that they just wouldn't throw at him, it's all of a sudden, that was a draft steal if you ask me, because for where he is in his career at this point, and you're like, it doesn't look like, barring anything happen, he won't be giving up that spot anytime soon.
Yeah, he ran something like a 4.35 at the CFL Combine back in 2022 and 2023, after a season of kind of just being a special teamer in Winnipeg, a Canadian rookie, as they often are, went to the National Football League, signed with the Green Bay Packers, was amongst their final round of cuts coming out of training camp. And he decided to hang around, keep working out in the States and wait for another NFL opportunity. That never came to fruition in 2023. So there he was in training camp in 2024, and we're starting to see him get early reps at field side corner. And we're like, wow, a Canadian at corner who's, played 1 year of pro football and not been, a big defensive contributor. Wow, what's this going to be all about? Early in the season, quarterbacks went after him and they started throwing at him, and he, started piling up the picks and great defensive knockdowns and was just incredible in coverage. And that's how we started to see more of Dietrich Nichols, where generally quarterbacks had never thrown Dietrich Nichols' way. He's their boundary halfback. So we started seeing Evan Holm get more action and Dietrich Nichols get more action. And, Terrell Bonds, their rookie at boundary corner, get a little bit more action and balls thrown their way. Quarterbacks didn't want to throw at Tyrell Ford. I think it's great to see a Canadian elevate his game so early in his career, be a starter, be a star, and be a Canadian in the Canadian Football League at a position we haven't seen a lot of players excel at. Defensive back, cornerback in particular. Tyrell Ford has had an outstanding season. He's a free agent this winter, guys. I'm really wondering if somebody's going to back up the truck and plop a bunch of cash onto his front lawn.
Interesting. Now, the one and only producer Colson just handed me the note. Bombers at home versus Saskatchewan have won 9 of the last 10 and 12 of the last 15, if you go back to 2013, just for those that are keeping score and record at home.
And Zach Collaros is 6-1, including 5-0 in Winnipeg in the playoffs.
But not wanting to tell you something you already know, Darren. Of course, we know what's happening south of the border, and every vote matters. So I want to get your vote, because on the post-game show of the West semifinal, we had to agree to disagree whether the BC Lions played poorly or if the Saskatchewan Roughriders played really, really well. If you had to cast your vote, where would you say that game went in your analysis and breaking it down?
That's a great question. It's interesting that you guys throw that one at me, because all week I've kind of been tossing it back and forth with the East final. Did Ottawa play well, but not well enough to beat an explosion Toronto Argonauts team that just kind of kept their foot on the gas pedal? Or did they make enough, make the mistakes that cost them that game? Look, the West Division is always incredibly competitive, and I think BC, with the way they had been playing the final third of the season, even the final half of the season, I think they played okay. But with the changes they had at quarterback, with some of the drops, I'm remembering now from that semifinal game, I honestly believe overall that the Saskatchewan Roughriders beat the BC Lions. I don't think the Lions beat themselves. I think they were beat by a better football team. And in my opinion, and for my money, this is the West Final I was expecting, the West Final that I wanted personally. I take my job seriously. I try to be objective, but look, I'm a born and bred Winnipegger. I parked my fan card in my back pocket years ago when I started covering this team in 2011. It's a difficult thing to do, as I'm sure, your audience can try to empathize with. But objectively, this is the best rivalry in Canada. These are the two best teams in the West Division. And based on recent history, more ancient history, and just the way this season has gone between Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, and all the storylines of Zach Collaros and Pat Neufeld, and so many different connections and storylines between these franchises on and off the field. I'm glad it's these two teams. But roundabout answering your question, I think the Saskatchewan Roughriders did a great job against the BC Lions. And, I really believe that it was Trevor Harris that was the catalyst of it all. So impressed with his play.
We've got Darren Bombing on the Western Pizza guest hotline here. We're talking Riders, Bombers. We're going to ask about the Jets here in just a bit, because there's some rumors and rumblings coming out, and Darren also is pretty close to that. Darren, does it concern you that this year Zach Collaros has been hit more, even in that last game against Montreal, than he has been, it seems, in years past? So far, he's been able to bounce back. There's a few times where it's kind of like, all right, Zach, are you getting up? Every quarterback every player's one hit away from it not going further. As someone who watches with concern because of the concussion issues he had, even as a Rider fan, they got to keep him upright, because he's been, I don't know, would you agree he's been taking way too many hits, especially in the second half of the season?
Well, we've seen what the league has done and worked towards for a few years now, and that's doing a better job at protecting quarterbacks. Have they gone a little bit too far in some areas? Some would argue that, roughing the passer or roughing the quarterback as they're running downfield and deciding to hook slide and all those sorts of things. I think that takes time to figure out, and it's a lot of judgment calls for those officials on the field whose job is not enviable, definitely not easy. But yeah, Zach Collaros has taken a ton of punishment. This offensive line in Winnipeg in 2024, not the dominant group that they have been when they had Jamarcus Hardrick, when Stanley Bryant was, playing his elite level football and was, back-to-back most outstanding offensive lineman in the CFL. It's not that same group. However, they are very good, and they've shown that in having the league's leading rusher in Brady Oliveira, and an offense that can most definitely score. It's just taken a few months for them to get acclimated to a very different group. But you ask Zach Collaros about the punishment he takes. You ask him about the way that officiating is handled and protecting quarterbacks and all those sorts of things. He almost is at the point in his career where he just shakes his head and scoffs at it and won't speak to it anymore. most of the time because he doesn't feel the league does anywhere near enough to protect him and to protect other marquee quarterbacks in this league. He takes a lot of hits, but for a guy who, a lot of people thought when Simone Lawrence hit Zach Collaros as a member of the Saskatchewan Roughriders just a few years ago, that was going to be it. And it's amazing how that butterfly effect really resulted in Collaros being a Winnipeg Blue Bomber today, being a two-time Grey Cup champion, and now one win away from getting him to the fifth straight Grey Cup appearance. I think you're absolutely right. Every quarterback is one hit away. But Zach Collaros has shown just incredible toughness, nails, and resiliency to stay healthy in games and to stay healthy from game to game, and keep playing it at a very high level. It hasn't been his best year statistically, and the playoffs haven't been his best statistically, but you mentioned his win-loss total at home and in the playoffs and that sort of thing. He's still pretty good if you just kind of gauge quarterbacks at the number one metric I think people look at quarterbacking, and that's wins and losses.
And
Darren, I don't know if we should.
Jason.
Well, I'll jump in, Darren, and the question that I'm going to say is, I don't know whether or not the three of us should feel shame or not, as we went 22 minutes of a conversation regarding the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and we didn't mention Brady Oliveira until you just did there.
No, by design, Dave, we don't mention Brady, and Brady doesn't show up on Saturday. We got nothing to worry about. That was all mind games.
See, but to me, I don't understand it, why he isn't getting his due, because the Roughriders know all about him. They're preparing for him. He's nominated for the Most Outstanding Player Award again. Why are we taking so long to get and bring his name up in this conversation? Are we just taking him for granted? I don't know.
I think maybe a lot of people have taken Brady Oliveira for granted. He's young, he's Canadian, he's a tailback, and he's, was and the heir apparent, and now is kind of the protege to master from Andrew Harris, right? And in his Hall of Fame career, playing in this league. It's interesting, though, because Brady Oliveira's 3 lowest rushing totals this season have all come against the league's number one rush defense, and that is the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They're head and shoulders better than everybody when you just look at the numbers. What is it, 80 yards per game they're allowing? I think next best is like 93, something along those lines. But what is interesting in, talking to Brady this week, I'll have an interview for, a conversation I had with him up on the Bonfire Sports YouTube channel a little bit later this week, is that while the run maybe numbers were subpar, the short pass game, the check down pass game, is essentially the run game in the CFL today. It started with Paul Appolice as OC and Andrew Harris, as a 1,000-yard receiver, or nearly 1,000-yard receiver when he had 1,000 yards rushing. He nearly went 1K, had over, I think he had 105 receptions one year that broke a CFL record for running backs. It started with that. And now as Buck Pierce is the offensive coordinator, a lot of look and feel similar to Paul Appolice's offense. It is still that check down, short pass game. It's a 1-yard downfield target to Brady Oliveira. And it essentially is the run game. So can you look too much into those 45 yards rushing Brady had against the Roughriders? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But the weather is going to be pretty good here in Winnipeg on Saturday. I think they're saying a high of, 8 or 10 degrees. It's going to drop a little bit, after kickoff, but low wind, I think, will be a very significant factor, especially for both quarterbacks. And we know how Winnipeg's, immaculate gust of wind went for them in Montreal a couple weeks ago. So wind is obviously maybe more at the forefront of Winnipeg football fans' minds right now than, say, Brady Oliveira in particular. But it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. Brady is once again up for the most outstanding player in the CFL as the West Division nominee. Same too with most outstanding Canadian. I personally expect him to win both of those awards. I don't know about you guys, but can you give an MOP to a quarterback on a non-playoff team, I think it would be a little bit of a stretch. And I think the West Division voters are probably going to come through for Brady to be the league's most outstanding player.
Well, you may not be able to give it to a quarterback on a non-playoff team. I would submit that you could probably give it to a defensive back on a playoff team, but I'm just throwing that out there. Who am I?
That's true.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, that's true. Tyrese
All right.
Beverett. Yeah. that is very true.
Oh, nice. So 8 degrees, sunny, no wind. Rum Hut's going to be lined up huge. Let's switch gears here. Tonight, Utah takes on the red-hot Winnipeg Jets. If not the best team, one of the best teams in the NHL to get rolling this year. What are the rumblings with the ownership and Chipman? What's the story? Is there a risk that the Winnipeg Jets could be on their way out of town? Like, is there any merit to this? What's rumbling on Twitter?
No, honestly, no, there isn't.
Okay.
This happens almost annually now. This team went a decade from returning to Winnipeg or, coming back, the Jets 2.0 in 2011, a decade of sellouts every single game. And obviously those whiteout playoff games as well, to being 3,000 short in the smallest rink in the National Hockey League. It's 15,200 and change, 225, I think. So these conversations always come about. And when a team starts 11-1-0, I'll just kind of, erase any doubt. They are the best team in the National Hockey League right now. The Toronto Maple Leafs came to town and beat them, I think, for the 6th straight time they've beat the Winnipeg Jets. Ever since Mark Scheifele came into the locker room and was caught on a microphone and video camera saying, is there anything better than beating the Toronto Maple Leafs? The Jets have not beat the Leafs since then. But outside of that, they got the best goalie in the world in Connor Hellebuck. They have a defense core that is shown to be incredibly deep. I think Josh Morrissey is going to be on Team Canada at the Four Nations tournament. Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor is at least a point in every single game this year. He's 1 goal off the NHL lead and has 19 points in 12 games. I think that's 7th in the NHL. They're clicking on all cylinders, and they do it with a defensive style of hockey. Why aren't the fans coming out? I think that will slowly change. But the reality is everybody's going to the Blue Bombers game. They're having their 5th sellout this season. It's going to be 33,000 plus on Saturday night. And the Winnipeg Jets, it's an expensive ticket. I think the economic realities is very similar to the economic realities in Saskatchewan and those decreased attendance numbers at Mosaic the last couple of years. The National Hockey League is a multi-million dollar operation, and it costs a lot of money to pay the players, pay the staff, keep the lights on in the building, insurance, all of those sorts of things. It's not like Winnipeg can lower their costs significantly. But is it at the point where Winnipeg is at risk of losing this franchise? Based on conversations we've had with the owner of this team, who's backed by David Thompson of Thomson Reuters and the richest man in Canada. I think he's got $25 billion of net worth. They have enough of a safety net there that they're not going to encounter something like Winnipeg Enterprises did, the ownership of the first iteration of the Winnipeg Jets back in the early 1990s, when a $7 million contract to Keith Tkachuk forced them to trade Teemu Selanne. Absolutely abhorrent, horrifying moment in Winnipeg sports history. And, losing the franchise that brought the tears to the faces of so many here in southern Manitoba and surrounding areas.
The carbon tax strikes again. Maybe that can help lower the costs, the input costs in Winnipeg. The Utah team, 11. It's 11. What's the Jets record? Is it 11-1-1 or 11-0-1?
11-1-0. Yeah.
11-1-0. Wow. Gary Bettman's probably like, please do not keep this up. We do not need them in the Stanley Cup final. They all want the Yankees, Dodgers. Doesn't matter the league. They want the biggest teams. Darren, we appreciate the time. I know you'll be in the press box Saturday, not rooting for your Bombers. You'll be completely independent. You're going to be like neutral Switzerland. Riders, Bombers in the West final. We won't ask you for a prediction on this game because a lot can happen. What do you think is going to happen in the East final? We'll end on this. Who do you think comes out between Toronto and Montreal?
I think the Montreal Alouettes are a superior football team to the Toronto Argonauts. The big play worked for them against an Ottawa Redblacks team that was not playing very good football going into the postseason. I just really believe that the Montreal Alouettes are built right. They got their head right. I think Jason Moss has really evolved as a head coach, knows how to coach a team on and off the field, maybe something he didn't know how to do as well when he was the head coach of the Edmonton Elks or Eskimos at that time. I just think Montreal is a team that can't be stopped right now, and they're going to bring it on Saturday afternoon.
All right. That's Darren Bombing at Bonfire WPG if you want to follow him on X. Thanks, my man. Let's do this again. We'll catch up when the Jets are, after the All-Star break, leading the league by 35 points over any other team. And we'll go from there. Stick close. The all-new Sportscage continues next. It'll be time to talk SJHL. Benny Walchuk and the SJHL report. They're in a bit of a mini all-star-ish break right now. We'll break it all down for Southie Mainline Chrysler here in just a couple of minutes. It's the all-new Sportscage on 620 CKRM.
The all-new Sports Cage is brought to you by Sherwood Co-op Liquor Stores. Now open in Harbor Landing and Rochdale Boulevard.
Harvard Heals with the annual Jim Pattison Children's Hospital Radiothon.
Hi, my name is Jen Spitzig. I was diagnosed with vasa previa. Vasa previa is an issue with your placenta. Mine was in two pieces, and there was fetal vessels crossing over my cervix. I had a regular ultrasound, and my doctor said, something looks, a little off, so we're going to send you to the hospital. Getting the diagnosis at the hospital that had, the specialists we needed and the equipment that we needed saved my daughter's life. The biggest thing with vasa previa is that you get a diagnosis. Without a diagnosis, it's almost always fatal. So having the hospital here to have made that diagnosis for us, it's beyond important to us because my daughter wouldn't be here without it. So many babies are born every day, whether it be the complicated pregnancies like my first or the smooth sailing deliveries like my second. We all need that hospital because without JPCH, she wouldn't be here.
Donate now. Call 1-888-808-KIDS. That's 1-888-808-5437.
When you shop at Sherwood Co-op, you're contributing to your community
while building equity and putting money back in your pocket.
Others may claim to be local, but Sherwood Co-op is truly local.
Rooted in your community for over 90 years.
They're a proud Saskatchewan company
who continue to support hundreds of community organizations each year.
Like the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit at the Regina General Hospital and the Cancer Foundation of Saskatchewan.
We are members.
We are owners.
We are Sherwood Co-op.
Regina Pats hockey is back and that net is wide open to renew your plates. When you take that big slap shot, do it online with Dusick and Barlow. Request a quote for anything you need. It's a true breakaway, and as easy as it is for the Pats to score that winning goal. When it comes to online plate renewal, there's no high sticking involved, just the most valuable players in the game. Your local Regina insurance brokers, Dusick and Barlow. Local owners, local business, SaskInsurance.com.
Pizza! Where's it from?
Kids, it's not delivery, it's...
No, it's definitely delivery. It's from Western Pizza. Mama's had a long day, so she ordered online, poured a glass of Happy, put her feet up, and waited for the doorbell. There's also Caesar salad, lasagna, chicken wings. Oh, I got lots, so we can have the leftovers tomorrow and the next day. Western Pizza. Big on toppings, big on taste, big on convenience. Get it delivered today.
Hospitals of Regina Foundation Home Lottery early bird deadline is midnight Friday. What if you win the Echo Lake Cottage early bird prize worth $775,000? This lakeside Ripplinger-built cottage is awarded fully furnished, decorated, and landscaped, plus $10,000 cash, and be in for the $1.4 million grand prize package show home. Early bird deadline midnight Friday. Buy now at hrfhomelottery.com. License LR24-0046.
Time now for the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League report on the all-new Sportscage. The SJHL report is brought to you by Southie Mainline, the Mainline Automotive Group's newest king of trucks. Southie Mainline, just 30 minutes north of Regina. Worth the drive, every time, guaranteed.
Warman, Saskatchewan is the hotbed of hockey activity when it comes to the SJHL. It's the Western All-Star Showcase, and every Tuesday at around this time, we bring on Benny Walchuk, who is the voice of the Melville Millionaires, the Yorkton Terriers, and the Swan Valley Stampeders, and the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. Benny, an all-star game in early November. Break it down for us, not so much in the know. What is happening today and tomorrow in Warman?
It's kind of a pre-selection camp for the World Junior A Challenge for Canada West. Of course, Canada West participates in the World Junior A Challenge against the other parts of the world in Camrose at the beginning of December. And this is kind of a pre-selection camp, top 20 prospects from this camp, which features 20 of the best prospects under 19 from Manitoba Junior Hockey League and the SJHL will compete at this camp in two kind of all-star games tonight and tomorrow in Warman, which is a great facility there up by Saskatoon. And then the top 20 prospects will be invited to the camp in Warman or in Calgary at the end of November. Then they'll participate if they're successful in competing at the World Junior A Challenge, which is a prestigious event. You've had Philip Forsberg, a member of the Nashville Predators, compete at the event, and a lot of Brock Besser was at this event. Kyle Connor of the Winnipeg Jets, they all compete at the World Junior A Challenge. So a pretty prestigious event and a kind of a great opportunity for these local players to take part in it.
Now, Benny, that Warman facility, you mentioned it is first class, right? It very easily could be home to a Junior A team if the community had wanted to go that direction. But in saying that, for a number of years, the SJHL held a showcase in Warman where they invited recruiters from across North America essentially to come and see the athletes participate. Is this event on now in place of that, in addition to? How does it fall in?
It's in place of it, yeah. They had a great event. It was great for me to get to watch all the teams. I could do a couple of games with my Melville and Yorkton teams, but I think the financials and the cost of it just cost a little bit too much for the league to have it each and every year. And they got some word from some of the scouting staff from the NHL Central Scouting or NCAA that it was kind of maybe they come and watch one or two players, not everybody players, and a couple guys commit and they don't want to come anymore. So there's a lot of logistics behind it, but mostly it's financial and bringing all the teams to Warman, and they got to play. They lose a home game as well. They might save a road trip, however, one game, but they're basically financially, it just wasn't maybe feasible anymore. And this is kind of an idea that the MJHL and SJHL came together with to kind of showcase some of those players that are probably would be on the radar of those NCAA scouts or even Western Hockey League scouts or the NHL Central Scouting.
Now, if you can only take 20 aside from the SJ and the MJ, obviously there's some guys that got left off. Who from the SJ, if all goes well, I'm not going to ask you. I know I'm not going to ask you that question. We're not going to box you in. Who do you expect to do well for the SJ at this camp? Who do you want to see shine because they've earned their spot and rightfully they should be there?
Yeah, like locally here. First off, before we get league-wide, Jaden Iogan is a guy that had a great season last year. He's probably one of the fastest guys in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. He plays with the Millionaires, and he's got 8 goals already this season. And I think he just can provide some good speed to this Canada West lineup against the European teams or teams from around the world that can skate on that big ice surface coming into Camrose. And a guy like Dustin Renas locally as well, Yorkton, he's had a great last couple of months of the season. I think he's going to be very good. But I think the biggest part of this SJHL team in particular is going to be their goaltending. They got Angelo Zoll, who is probably one of the best netminders in the SJHL, leading the Red Hot Weyburn Red Wing team to a point streak of 12 straight games. And then you got Callum Craig, who's just in our backyard here in Yorkton. And Callum at one point had a 1.11 goals against average through 6 games. So I think the backbone of this team, I'm looking forward to see what goaltending, if these maybe both of them get picked. I know it's between the MJHL, SJHL, and the Alberta Junior Hockey League to make this roster. So I'd like to see one of those guys make this team, and I think they will, either Angelo Zoll or Callum Craig. So I think if they do make it, I think one of those guys could take the reins for Canada West. So that's kind of a aspect I'm looking for. And I think the back end's pretty good. Jackson Herchek, I know we talked to him in past years. He's already committed to Colorado College in for NCAA Division I. He plays for the Kindersley Clippers. So a lot of good talents. It's also a mixture. Do you want to take a little little bit more younger guys, 06s, or you're going to take an older team as 05s for the Canada West. I'm not sure if it is this year, but there was a limit to how many 19-year-olds you can take in the event. So I'm not sure if that limit exists right now. And if it is, you have to decide you want to take what 19-year-olds you want to take, and then the rest of them will be filled with the 17 and 16 and the 18-year-olds.
Benny, I'm not going to state anything that you don't know, but there's a bit of a rivalry between the SJHL and the MJHL. So while this is a great evaluation tool, it's also an opportunity to see kind of where everybody fits in. Back in the day, there used to be the Anavet Cup Series where the SJHL champion played the Manitoba Junior Hockey League champion. I know this is a long-winded question, but you are in the unique have the unique opportunity to cover both leagues. How do the two stack up against one another when you watch them?
Yeah, exactly. And in junior third, they're going to have a chance to face each other again at the SJHL MJHL showcase in Winnipeg at the end of January, which is always a great event there in Winnipeg as well. But it's you get the East question. Sometimes it changes each and every year with the amount of players. I think the SJHL, first off, when I first started, the MJHL was a lot more physical, a lot more a little chippier in the smaller barns there in the MJHL. But I think the SJHL is getting a lot more chippier as well. I think the rivalries are coming back in those respective Estevan Weyburns, the Melvilles Yorktons, and the Melfords Nipawins type rivalries. So I think the SJHL is right now probably a little bit better of a league as a whole than the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. But in saying that, I think the MJHL has had some great talent. You look at the Vegas Golden Knights a couple of years ago. Zach Whitecloud was a guy that didn't play AAA hockey until his last year of U18 hockey. Then he made the Verdun Oil Capitals, played 3 years, went to Bemidji, and then 4 or 5 years later, he's in Stanley Cup champion. So they do have some great talent, but I think overall right now, the SJHL is a little bit more skilled and maybe a little bit more deeper of a league right now. And maybe it's because they're older. MJHL always goes a little bit of a younger route, a lot more 18, 17-year-olds from the Winnipeg area that take the step up to junior hockey. So right now, I think the SJHL is superior, but we'll see what happens here when they face off not only this week, but also in January as well.
All right. It's the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League report for Southie Mainline Chrysler. King of Trucks, Benny Walchuk. That Callum Craig with a 1.11 goals against average. If I'm his mom or his dad, that's NIL money type goals against average. So any scout in the crowd, I would be working them in the media room to be like, listen, for this amount of money, my son will be coming to play for you. You could just shoot me a Venmo or interact that money. This is kind of interesting. Tonight, MJ, SJ, 7:30, warm and all good. Maybe we go get a bite to eat afterwards. But then tomorrow they play again at 11:30 in the morning, Benny. Who decided this schedule? Who's playing hockey before noon? Old fat guys that don't play well play hockey before noon because that's the only ice time that they can get sometimes. All right, and they don't even wear equipment, most of them.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit quick turnover to try to get the games in, get the guys back to their respective junior clubs. I know the MJHL clubs have a little bit farther to travel, and a lot of them will play coming up on Friday. So probably just a little quick turnaround and get the scouts in the barn. But yeah, we'll see. They're young legs, not like us. I'm sure they'll be able to handle it pretty good.
Well, all this talk about traveling. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, last week we kind of got on the topic of the young guys and what they listen to, the old guys, and I had mentioned Conway Twitty coming up on the Spotify playlist today. Just a second, Dave, go. I just lost it.
Oh, no. Okay, well, we're talking a lot about driving. We always want to know where it's worth the drive every time. We know that out to Southie, but we're going to get your game or the pick of the week, if you will. But we are talking a lot about roadies and heading out on the road. So Manitoba or Saskatchewan, if you're not calling a game at home, Yorkton or Melville, where do you want to go? Favorite barn?
Oh, the call a game right now. I like going to Flin Flon. That's a historic barn. I like to call a game there. Melfort has a good calling points. And actually, have you ever been out to Verdun? It's maybe not the best place to call a game, but the Tundra Oil and Gas place there in Verdun is a great barn. I think in the future they're going to be hosting a national championship. Portage has a very nice facility as well. So a lot of good facilities. And I like going up to the Pas and the Swan Rivers and the Nipawas. A little bit of character, a little bit of chillier when you're calling a game. So I don't like it to be too comfortable when you're calling a game. I want the long johns on, some heated socks and some carriage a little bit to call a game. I know. I'm a younger guy, Maz. I'm not you guys that need all the heat and everything in a barn, but I like to have a little bit of cooling, have the hot chocolates and everything going on. So
All right, so we'll wrap on this. Then Colson can take us to break. The song, and this is an all-timer. This would be a GX94 request. Solid gold. Larry Gatlin and the Gatlin brothers, All the Gold in California. All right, we're going to take a break.
Whoa.
There was
Benny
an apology.
didn't give us his drive yet, though. We got to make the drive.
Yeah. Oh, we got to make the drive. Sorry.
Let's go to Weyburn this weekend on Saturday. Estevan Bruins and Weyburn Red Wings Highway 39 matchup. Weyburn's been one of the best teams. I know you're neck of the ridge, Dave, but I think it's going to be at Crescent Point Place, and Weyburn's going to be packed with the rivalry. It doesn't matter where these guys are in the standings, just like any rivalry in the SJHL. So I'm going to go Estevan at Weyburn, 7:00 on Saturday nights. And I'm not sure where the after party is after, Dave. You might know the surroundings a little bit better, but Saturday night in Weyburn.
All right. It's the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League report for Southie Mainline Chrysler, the king of trucks. We'll be right back. The all-new Sports Cage will continue after this at sportscage.com.
Rooted in tradition, leading in innovation, McDougall Auctioneers is your first choice for farm auctions. Hi, this is Riley McChesney. At McDougall Auctioneers, we understand that selling your farm equipment is more than just business. It's about peace of mind. That's why we offer a unique guarantee, a minimum value for your auction, ensuring you sell with confidence and comfort. Our promise is your security. Choose McDougall Auctioneers, where your satisfaction is not just expected, it's guaranteed. McDougallAuction.com.
Harvard Heals with the annual Jim Pattison Children's Hospital Radiothon, presented by CIBC Wood Gundy.
Hi, I'm Cole Smith, and I'm 16 years old.
In the summer of 2022, Cole was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
I was kind of in shock. I was upset, scared, and didn't know what life would be like after. Football was a big thing, and afterwards I found out I couldn't play, so that was hard, but I'm really excited because I wasn't allowed to play the last 2 years, so I'm really excited to get back out there. Right now, the only hard thing for me is I just have nerve damage in 3 of my fingers, so I can't really feel anything. I've had to switch to my other hand since I'm right hand dominant, and that's the hand it's in. I've had to do a lot of things with my left hand, which was challenging, but that's really the only thing that's affected me since. Making that donation helps a lot, even if it's just a little bit, because it will always go towards kids, and it'll always help them with anything related to their health journey.
Donate now. Call 1-888-808-KIDS. That's 1-888-808-5437.
Meet your new favorite shade of green. At Nick's Service, we offer the Fendt 500 Vario Series tractor that's tailor-made for your farm. Get better stability, ease of use, and comfort with one tractor. Whether you're feeding, tilling, baling, or hauling, this series is built for your farm. Experience up to 163 horsepower with this multi-purpose tractor. Visit Nick's Service in Emerald Park or go to nicksservice.com to get a quote on the Fendt 500 Vario Series.
You've probably heard people say, happy spouse, happy house. For my wife, it's as simple as keeping the Wi-Fi running and making sure the house stays warm all winter. That's why I always call on Aero Plumbing and Heating for everything from maintenance to energy service or unit replacements. Right now, you can get a new furnace from Aero starting at just $67.50 a month plus a $650 Sask Energy rebate. That part keeps both of us happy. Call the straight shooters at Aero Plumbing and Heating or visit aeroplumbing.ca.
Aero Plumbing, Heating and Air.
It's here, the year-end clear-out sale. Check out this GM-certified pre-owned low-mileage 2024 GMC Terrain Elevation with all-wheel drive and heated seats and a sharp black wheel package. We have over 40 to choose from, starting from $31,995 plus taxes. Rates as low as 4.99% for 24 months OAC, and financing is available on all GM-certified pre-owned vehicles. Plus, roadside assistance and a 150-plus point inspection. It's the year-end clear-out sale on certified pre-owned vehicles at the Capital Auto Mall on the corner of Pasqua and Rochdale in Regina.
Stock number 245638.
The all-new Sports Cage. Watch our live stream at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
So, unless you've been living under a rock, it's election day down in the States. And one of the things on social media, it's hard to fight through all of the election stuff. Even here, when we had the provincial election, and we're going to have the civic election, and with the U.S. presidential election. But there are still some viral moments getting through. Dave, did you see this on the weekend? When Jason Kelsey, he was on the Penn State campus, and he was getting heckled by a couple of students as he was walking through. And one of them said something not nice, which we're not going to say on the radio, about his brother Travis dating Taylor Swift. and he grabbed the kid's cell phone and he smashed it. Which I thought, okay, you kind of deserve that. You know?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, like,
the kid was looking for a reaction, right?
I know he was, and there's a million phones out. So then last night on Monday Night Football, before Tampa Bay and Kansas City, because it's 2024, Jason Kelce issued, I don't know if it's an apology, but here's the statement. Here's how they opened the show last night for Monday Night Football.
Some stuff on your mind, and I want to give you the floor to say what's on your mind.
Yeah, listen, I think everybody's seen on social media everything that took place this week. Mm-hmm. That's what listen, I'm not happy with anything that took place. I'm not proud of it. And, in a heated moment, I chose to greet hate with hate. And I just don't think that that's a productive thing. I really don't. I don't think that, it leads to discourse, and it's the right way to go about things. And in that moment, I fell down to a level that I shouldn't have. So I think the bottom line is, I want to live my life. I try to live my life by the golden rule. That's what I've always been taught. I try to treat people with common decency and respect, and I'm going to keep doing that moving forward. Even though I fell short this week, I'm going to do that moving forward and continue to do that.
So here's my question about all of this. Do you think that he said, "Hey, I want to say this," or did ABC, who does Monday Night Football, say, "No, you've got to say this. That you've got to address this"? Who do you think's decision this was?
Little column A, little column B, because they all just wanted to shake it off.
See, for that, I wouldn't even invite you to the Weyburn Estevan after party on Saturday. Dave, if you did that at the Beefeater in Estevan, they wouldn't let you back in.
No.
That is not. That is not. And here's the thing. Did you notice? It was almost refreshing during the game. By the way, Tampa played way better than I thought for being 4-4. And a lot of people, Kansas City, the NFL is scripted. They always win. Yeah, they kind of always do. Mahomes is good. But I counted, they only showed Taylor Swift 3 times in the first half, which to me is a victory. All right, we got to take a break. Coming up in minutes, the all-new Sports Cage continues. We're going to go coast to coast with Arash Madani. What about his Vikings? What about what's going on in the NHL? We're going to dive into everything, and then the CFL with Arash, one of his favorite topics. We'll do that next here on 620 CKRM.
Eder Seed and Processing east of Regina is always looking for seed, particularly brown and yellow flax, and large caliber peas, including Forest, Comfort, Spruce, and Striker green peas. They're splitting peas for human consumption, and they're always looking to buy. Eder Seed and Processing is licensed and insured with the Canadian Grain Commission. Call Jim at 522-1668 for delivery options and prices. That's 522-1668. Eder Seed and Processing, just east of Regina off Highway 33.
It all started with a magic show in the garage.
I'll now pull a rabbit out of my hat.
It all went downhill from there when the magician, instead of a rabbit, pulled a rat out of his hat.
Oh my! Run, kiddos, run!
Call Busy Bee Doors. They can fix or replace any commercial or garage door. They've got some magic of their own.
Benson, has anyone seen a rabbit?
Busy Bee Doors, the garage door specialists.
Hey Rider Nation, this is Dave Thomas, voice of your Saskatchewan Roughriders. It's the playoffs. That means the games are bigger, and so is the 50-50. Huddle up to riders5050.ca, and you can watch the jackpot grow and get your playoff 50-50 tickets. It's a big Rider Nation touchdown with the playoff 50-50. Go green and go all the way. Everyone wins with the Riders in the playoffs.
License number LR240102.
Sometimes everything can look perfect on the outside, but inside, things could definitely be better. Luckily, Fries Tobin has everything you need to finish those indoor renovations this fall. That's right, interior reno season is here. So head to Freeze Tallman for all the insulation, drywall, interior doors, baseboards, and casing materials you need to make your home cozy and welcoming for the long winter months that lie ahead. Visit freezetallman.com or see them in Regina or Fort Capel. Freeze Tallman. Let's get you building.
When planning a mini winter getaway, take a step back in time with the historic Grant Hall Hotel in Moose Jaw. Built in the 1920s, this luxurious hotel features classic designs, 58 styles of rooms, the most elegant meeting rooms, and a banquet hall. Spend the day exploring, then enjoy an extravagant, relaxing dining experience at the Grant Hall Dining Room and Burrowing Owl Lounge. They have gift cards too, perfect for stocking stuffers. The Grant Hall Hotel Moose Jaw, your vacation destination in a notorious little city with an amazing history.
Yo, it's your furnace. Sorry, I caught a cold. Actually, you should be apologizing to me. I heard that Aero Plumbing and Heating will tune up your furnace for only $129. So I'm gonna sit back and relax while Aero makes me feel all warm and cozy inside. You go ahead and visit aeroplumbing.ca and get that scheduled, huh?
Aero Plumbing, Heating and Air.
Good afternoon. It's mostly cloudy and it's 2 degrees in Regina. I'm Corey Atkinson from the Harvard Media News Center with 620 CKRM News for Sherwood Co-op. Proud supporter of our community with over 500 donations to local charities and nonprofits annually, and by Mercedes-Benz Regina, for those who can. Mercedes-Benz-Regina.ca. During Skilled Trade and Technology Week from November 3rd to 9th, Saskatchewan students are invited to learn more about career options in the trades and technology sectors. Skills Canada Saskatchewan and the SATCC are helping educators promote these fields through events like Trade and Tech Days, classroom visits from trades professionals, and the Saskatchewan Youth Apprenticeship Program. Developed by the SATCC, the Saskatchewan Youth Apprenticeship Program allows students to earn trade time hours and waived fees for Level 1 training if they begin their apprenticeship within 5 years. This initiative aims to build knowledge and skills for students interested in pursuing these in-demand careers. Saskatchewan health officials are warning of the presence of typhoid fever in the province. The Saskatchewan Health Authority says many people have been exposed to the serious illness last month if they ate at a Domino's in the city of Martinsville. Anyone who got sick after eating food from that restaurant between October 11th and 19th is being asked to see a healthcare professional or call the province's health line. Typhoid fever is spread through food or water that's contaminated with the bacteria and can cause fever, rash, and gastrointestinal symptoms. Business groups say the work stoppage at BC ports is the latest in supply chain disruptions affecting Canadian companies and the country's economy.
The Canadian manufacturers and exporters said the disruption would halt cargo operations across the province's ports, which are vital to the flow of manufactured goods. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce, meanwhile, says significant labor disruptions are becoming too common and tarnish Canada's reputation as a reliable trading partner. The disruption comes less than a year and a half after a strike at the same port that lasted 13 days, and just a few months after a countrywide work stoppage at Canada's two biggest railways. Michelle Zedekian, The Canadian Press.
The agriculture community in Canada is watching the U.S. election closely. Kyle Larkin, the executive director of the Grain Growers of Canada, says trade relations are a concern regardless if Donald Trump or Kamala Harris is elected president.
Both of them have signaled that they have issues with CUSMA, which is our free trade agreement with the Americans and with the Mexicans. Both of them have signaled that they want to renegotiate this. We know that when NAFTA was renegotiated in the last round, there were a lot of difficulties between Canada and the U.S., but at the end of the day, we were able to get an agreement.
The Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement is due for a review in 2026. And a wagging tail and a soft muzzle have been greeting people who are possibly nervous about getting their shots at a Saskatoon vaccine clinic. The Saskatchewan Health Authority has enlisted the help of Dibs, a spaniel mix his owner describes as a, quote, certified good boy. Dibs regularly visits children at Ronald McDonald House at the Jim Pattison's Children's Hospital and also comforts adult trauma survivors. Tanya Arthur, the veterinarian technician who took in Dibs as a foster animal, says his job is to bring joy to everyone he meets. That's your 620 CKRM News. Read more stories from around your community and around the province at sasktoday.ca and 620ckrm.com. Your weather is next.
When you shop at Sherwood Co-op, you're contributing to your community
while building equity and putting money back in your pocket.
Others may claim to be local, but Sherwood Co-op is truly local.
Rooted in your community for over 90 years.
They're a proud Saskatchewan company
who continue to support hundreds of community organizations each year.
like the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit at the Regina General Hospital and the Cancer Foundation of Saskatchewan.
We are members.
We are owners.
We are Sherwood Co-op.
The luxury of Mercedes-Benz has never been more within reach with the fall demo event at Mercedes-Benz Regina. Save up to $32,000 on select models like the luxurious EQE 350. Get the premium performance and elegance Mercedes-Benz is known for, but with unmatched value when you choose certified pre-owned. Take advantage of the opportunity to experience the Mercedes-Benz you've always dreamed of, without compromise. Book your test drive at Mercedes-Benz Regina.
And now it's time for your 620 CKRM Precision Weather Forecast for Linex Regina. Serious protection, killer looks, 1865 McCarra Street, and brought to you by Wolf Industries, your truck repair specialists in Grenfell, servicing all sizes of trucks, SGI accredited. Tonight, snow likely, about 2 centimeters possible with a low of -6. Tomorrow, early flurries and then partly sunny and a high of +2. And on Thursday, mostly sunny and a high of +6. At this hour in Moose Jaw, there's some light rain and fog. Winds are from the north at 26, gusting to 39, and it's 2. Regina is mostly cloudy. Winds are from the northwest at 4, and it's 2 here also. For more local news that matters to you, subscribe to the daily newsletter at sasktoday.ca.
Whether Smoky's after you or not, when you're on the road in your big rig, you're in a hurry to get to where you're going, and you need a part shop you can trust. Wolf Industries is the premium choice. They're your family-run truck mechanic shop with a full line of parts for big semis, with certified AC technicians for the hot summer. Stop in at their Grenfell location for all the parts and repairs you need. They're SGI accredited for safety inspections and have 24-hour emergency call-out. Wolf Industries, the best for your truck. 10-4.
When you want the best for your truck, you want Line-X. Your truck has withstood the harshest elements Saskatchewan has thrown at it. Rocks, gravel, rain, sleet, and snow, and left with no chips, no rust. Line-X protective coating keeps your truck's bed liners, rocker panels, and bumpers looking like brand new. Don't settle for Brand X. Go with Line-X. It's serious protection. Come see why everybody loves taking their truck to Line-X Regina for their rocker panels, bumpers, and more. Line-X. Make your truck complete. 1865 McCarra Street.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents the all-new Sportscage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Be a part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262. The all-new Sportscage. Streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Welcome to hour number 2 of the show. We started out with Rider Bomber Talk with Darren Bombing from at Bonfire Winnipeg. And a great conversation. If you missed any of that, you can always go back and catch the podcast at sportscage.com. Chris Masrick, Dave Thomas in for Barney today, doing the all-new Sportscage. We're going to hear from Coach Mace in just a little bit. It was chilly practice, day number 1. We'll get his thoughts on kind of where we're at. Not that they're going to be giving away any secrets this early in the week, although there was a few people noticeably absent from practice, and probably Dave. When we chatted earlier, it was cold at Mosaic Stadium, was it not?
It was chilly because the snow was coming down today, but nobody in football is going to say it's cold until the ball explodes when you try to kick it in Saskatchewan. So it wasn't that bad.
One of the things we did find out, the Rum Hut should be buzzing in Winnipeg on Saturday. Sunshine and 8 degrees. And for November the 9th, that is like a balmy summer day here in the prairies. All right, as we do every Tuesday and Thursday, it's time to go coast to coast with Arash Madani.
The all-new Sportscage and Coast to Coast with Arash Madani is brought to you by Smart Investing Solutions. Be smart with your money. Call Brian Golly at Smart Investing Solutions, 546-2533.
All right, right, Arash, let's start with Monday Night Football. Tampa Bay in Kansas City, and we'll get to the game in just a sec. But it's always interesting when you start a football broadcast with a statement/apology right before the top of the hour. We played what Jason Kelsey said in reaction to him grabbing a Penn State student's phone and smashing it. It was all over social media. There was words exchanged heated. Do you think ABC made him do that, or did he probably want to do that on his own and kind of clear the air?
Yeah, I would think, hey guys, I would think that like ABC's parent company is Disney. So if Disney is going to force that issue, it is going to be a carefully crafted, manicured statement that probably would have been taped. But even if it was live, Kelsey would have been talking off a teleprompter. Jason kind of stumbled his way through a half apology-ish thing. So I think this was him just saying, I have to address this. This is the way I'm going to approach this, my way. And it was a kind of like, I'm sorry it happened, not I'm sorry for what I did.
That's exactly, because I was waiting. I'm like, he hasn't really kind of said sorry. Although, hey, listen, if you're gonna mouth off an NFL offensive lineman, I don't care. You're taking, like, and I get it. Everything's for social media and it's for clicks and it's views and for all of that. When I had first saw it, because I saw it with no sound, so I didn't see it. Jason Kelsey grabbing a student phone and throwing it on the ground, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then back to political memes, and I just kept trucking, and then it just seemed to explode.
Yeah,
and then it was everywhere.
I think there's two things to this. One, I think we've just lost civility in our day-to-day life. Like, why is it okay as somebody's walking down the street to just chase after him and just be yipping in his ear and yipping in his ear and yipping in his ear and yipping in his ear? What's he done to you, man? Like, this man's just going about his day. The other is, I'm reminded of, and it went viral when it happened, a few years ago, Joey Votto was in the on-deck circle. They were on the road somewhere, and somebody just started chirping Votto and chirping Votto and chirping Votto. Votto turned around and said, if I react to this, I have so much more to lose than you do. And everyone's just going to remember me for how I respond to you and what I say. And so I'm not going to do that because I have way more to gain by not doing anything, which I thought was a terrific way of telling the guy to shove it where the sun don't shine, and doing it and he did it kind of just in the same calm tone in which I'm talking to you guys right now.
All right. Once the game eventually started, Tampa comes in 4-0. Kansas City Tampa was 4-4. Kansas City was 7-0. Tampa played way better than I thought they would. Is that the book on how to beat the Kansas City Chiefs? Man coverage and pressure. Because at times, Patrick Mahomes, he looked human. He wasn't able to make all that Superman stuff that he normally does. And I'm like, this is nuts. And then, I don't know, everyone was, and Arash, are you on this? They should have went for 2 at the end of the game to try and win as opposed to go for the tie?
I was 100% on Tampa going for 2. Look, the Bucs were without Chris Godwin. They're without Mike Evans. What also helped neutralize Kansas City was the fact that there was a sideways rainstorm. But how many times in the fourth quarter and in overtime have we seen Patrick Mahomes have the comeback win? Here you are on the road, missing your guys. You're right there. Here's a chance to do it. Here's a chance to pack things up, get on the plane with a win, steal one from the defending champs. Instead, it's up to a coin flip, then they come down. How many times have we seen that before? That's an undefeated KC team. How many real shots do you have at beating them? You got to go for 2 there.
I'm of the same mindset as you, Arash, that they should have gone for 2, but I want to know what you think that says to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If I'm a player in the locker room that, Our coach thinks that we got a better shot at winning a coin toss than we do of running a short yardage play for a 2-point convert.
Well, I think it's two things, though, Dave. One is now they're going for two all over the place. All the analytics are saying go for two, go for two. Now, that said, I actually looked it up today. Only 31% of 2-point conversions have succeeded this year. But the other is, like, it's the end of the game. Like, your defense is just gassed. Like, everybody's exhausted. How much is left in the tank? Especially for a defense that was on the field as long as the Buccaneers were. Here's the other stat, guys, that like 8-0 teams in the Super Bowl era, 100% of them have made the playoffs. KC is the 30th, by the way, 8-0 team in the Super Bowl era. All 30 have made the playoffs, or all 29. 69% have made at least the conference championship game, and more than half have gone to the Super Bowl. KC just continues to find ways to win, and it feels like every damn bounce and call and flag and everything, goes their way.
Oh, and by the way, then teams just give away guys like DeAndre Hopkins for basically nothing, and all the next thing you know, the over-the-shoulder catches and then the touchdowns, and I'm like, and they have the best record. Are they the best team? Maybe not, but they just win.
Yeah.
They just win.
And how many different ways they can win, right? Okay, yeah, you bring in D-Hop, and you already have Kelsey, and, the quarterback just continues to make magic happen. I actually went, you guys will appreciate this, little kind of peek behind the curtain on how the sausage is made. I went and spoke to a college media class the other day, and talking about working on deadline. So the first KC Super Bowl, like a month before COVID hit, when they beat San Francisco the first time, not to be confused with the second time last year. That's the kind of run they've been on. The first one, the birth of Patrick Mahomes as a GOAT. If you remember, San Francisco, with like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, led by 10. I had written a script about Robert Saleh's defense becoming the new Legion of Boom, becoming the new Monsters of the Midway, that San Francisco forever was Montana and Rice and John Taylor. Now welcome the new era of San Francisco 49ers football, where the defense has won them a championship. And in 5 minutes, it all kind of shattered right there on the cutting room floor. I still have the script in my email. How many times since have we seen Kansas City do it? It's just amazing how it all goes.
South of the border, though, and not to change the topic, just Tampa Bay irks me, to be quite truthful. It was a big weekend, though, for Canadians, wasn't it?
Yeah, and this was amazing. I was kind of going through it. I keep tabs just on how Canadians are doing in different sports. So, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but Chuba Hubbard, who's, by the way, from Edmonton, he has put together a really nice NFL career. Went to Oklahoma State, now has been with Carolina for a few years. He had a 2-touchdown game carrying the football. Chase Brown, who went to Illinois, he's from just down the street from where I am in Kitchener, Ontario. He had a huge game with a touchdown. Josh Palmer, who's hooking up now with Justin Herbert down there with the Chargers, he caught a touchdown. You have Tavius Robinson, who had a couple of sacks. Sidney Brown, Chase's brother, a forced fumble. Jesse Luketa from Ottawa with a sack. For those watching on the stream, there's the Josh Palmer touchdown there. Guys, we have never had a weekend where Canadians have done this well ever in the NFL. And it's all over the place. It's skilled guys, it's defensive guys, it's touchdowns, it's sacks, it's forcing fumbles. You name it. The kid for Baltimore that you're seeing now went to the University of Guelph, and then during COVID, they didn't play the U Sports season. He was able to transfer. He went down to Ole Miss, and now he's found a spot with the Ravens, who I think is the best team in football. And he's making plays. It's just been an awesome weekend to see Canadians doing stuff all over the place.
Could you imagine if all of those dudes were in the CFL? They'll just have the level, the rising tide in all boats. That Baltimore thing, I'm I have a hard time buying Baltimore stock because of like games like Cleveland to be like, those are the games you shouldn't lose, but you still do. And Kansas City will just come along and beat you. And same with the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, until you can knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. It's all a moot point. All right. Canadian Football League.
Yep.
Let's start with the Vernon Adams Jr. debacle because it came out yesterday when they were doing their year-end presser. Dave, what was kind of the quote where they said, what was his thing where he goes, yeah, did he say it made it a little weird or a little uncomfortable that Nathan worked?
The one thing
to
I
paraphrase,
thought was he thought that he was going to come back and retain his starter position after he was injured because that's what happened to him when, of course, Nathan Rourke had gotten injured. So to me, it just spells that there's a lot of turbulence that was happening behind closed doors as we've got the clip here.
Whoa, how dare you, Mr. Thomas, insinuate that? We were hearing it was kumbaya in the BC locker room. There was harmony all over. Everybody was okay with what was going on. What do you mean? That can't be, David. What do you mean?
I know. I feel shame. Got it, Curtis?
Also,
let's do it.
Yeah, Curtis, you
got just said it. You know, I came here because I knew I was coming to hold down this team, keep us in second place, and get us a home playoff game. And that's what I did. Went 4-2 as a starter. And, you know, I felt like that was going to be the same thing this year, and it wasn't. And that really crushed me because, you know, Rick, he put the most confidence in me last year after I threw those 6 interceptions, and he kept me in. And no coach has ever gave me that much confidence. And then so, you know, when I came back and they told me they didn't know I was getting my spot back or anything, that kind of just totally crushed me. It did. I'm not going to lie. But again, I wasn't going to be whining and complaining about it. I had to come to work every day with a smile on my face and help however I could. And I felt like I did that. And I brought good energy. And yeah, I wasn't going to bring anyone down.
All right. So
you know what's interesting about that? He just said last year Rick kind of empowered me and lifted me and et cetera, et cetera. And like not going to go too far down the rabbit hole here. Who was making the call on who was starting at quarterback? Was it the head coach?
There's no that Rick Campbell had nothing. Amar Dolman is the one that signed Nathan Rourke. There's no way in the world that Rick Campbell, he probably quietly, but that's his boss, maybe said to his wife, WTF, my hands are tied. We need a job. I got to go along with this.
So this is my read on this. If, and it's a capital I, capital F, maybe even a PH, if Ed Hervey ends up as the general manager in Edmonton, and who knows what's going to happen. What I've heard is they're going to try and get a list of 6 people to interview. If Ed Hervey ends up getting the GM job in Edmonton, is Rick Campbell, son of Hugh, the next head coach of the Elks? And Rick wipes his hands of this whole mess of the quarterback situation in BC and says, someone else deals with this. Because this is not working for me. It's not working for the team. And I'm moving on. I wonder. Now, who knows if Hervey's going to be the GM there or not? Again, what I heard is they're going to talk to 6 people, or they want to interview 6 people. But that's a scenario to just keep in mind because what the Elks are trying to do is build goodwill in that market, and Hervey is very well liked in that market. I'm not saying Ed's getting the job, but
do you think, okay, so we've talked a lot this season about dual head coach, general manager, right? So Calgary going to stay the course with Dave Dickinson, just going to remove some other pieces around him. A nice eye roll. I wish everybody at home could see that.
Right.
So Edmonton goes ahead and, of course, relieves Chris Jones of that. Rick Campbell is firmly entrenched as the co-general manager and head coach in BC. Do you feel, with your spidey senses or whatever the case may be, that he wants to get out of that dual role and just go back to the head coach?
It's a good question, Dave. I don't know. The problem with these people in football is they want all the control. Everybody wants final say. But sometimes, you're going to make the meal, you got to shop for the groceries, as Parcells said, but sometimes you don't want to grow the plants and grow the vegetables. Um, I think it fully depends on the situation overall. And how are we going to work? Do I trust the person who's the GM? Do I have familiarity with the person who's the GM, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah.
Am I going to have final say on the game day roster or not? That's something a little different than the overall kind of picture. Maybe the GM, is in charge of the draft and helps out in free agency and all that kind of stuff. It's a good question. I don't know the answer to it.
So if we go to the game, Vernon Adams, who started for BC against the Riders in the West semifinal, he looked good at times, but then at times the bad VA came out. The pressing, the forcing the ball, the interceptions, and hey, I get it, man. You're playing for your life, you're playing for your job, but it just seemed like the Riders I thought played well, but they also outweighted VA because you just knew as time was ticking down, he's going to have to try and make plays here to do something. And they love the long ball. And it just seemed like the bad VA, which he was able to shelf in the early part of the season, eventually came out. And I think a lot of that has to do with chemistry and time playing and not playing a lot down the stretch where you could see the intention, but
yeah, and I will just say this, like for those watching on the stream, especially this last throw here, like what I thought the Riders did so well, and Dave, I don't know if you talked to Mace about this, they disguised so well. They baited Vernon Adams into thinking he was seeing something that he wasn't. Like Vernon Adams, there were a couple of times thought he was looking at man coverage, but it wasn't there, and holding on to it late gave them that extra tick. Like there were times you're saying, why is he throwing into triple coverage? I would tell you that when the receiver made the break, it didn't look like that at all. I thought it was a masterclass by the Rider secondary, especially because, so often you see turnovers happen. You say, okay, that was a result of pressure. This wasn't the case. This was the defensive backfield getting the job done. Like, look how wide open Hollins looks there, and then all of a sudden it isn't. That is really good defensive football. That's really good scouting of the quarterback. And I get the bad VA narrative, Chris. I really do. But I'll also say this. Would you have rather Nathan Rourke in that game? Because I don't think I would have. Not the Nathan Rourke of 2024.
Well, and the one, my 2 cents on the subject would be the controlled pressure that the Riders used, right? They didn't allow the integrity of the pocket to be compromised. Again, you're going to get that with VA a little bit, but I thought it was a superior coaching job. And the East, I'm not so sure that was the case, as I wondered if Ottawa outcoached themselves or maybe got outcoached themselves, which maybe leads me to asking you, Farhan, where am I? Jeez. Arash, I'm sorry, man. Arash, my question is, my friend,
we're
where
back to the fake names. Nice.
Yeah, that's right. Jeez. We got to get name bars in this place. Anyways, Arash, my question is, where do we go from here in Ottawa right now to allow them to take this next step? They were able to get themselves, right, into the playoffs. How do they take the next step?
Well, Barney, the first thing I'd tell you...
10 points! 10 points! Right there. Circle gets the square.
There you go. I don't think they're going to make a change at head coach. I don't think they're going to make a change at GM. The head coach has another year left on his deal. The GM is expiring. I think they're going to bring him back. I think they're going to move forward with Drew Brown at quarterback. And I think that part of the issue in Ottawa this year was that there was never stability at quarterback. There was always this Jeremiah Masoli thing lurking in the background. And I think at last we figured out now that Jeremiah Masoli is not a starting quarterback. I think they're going to move forward with Drew Brown at quarterback. They need better players, and you need depth, which is hard to get in this league. It's hard to find in this league. Ottawa was playing well, and then you lose your left tackle, and then you lose your right tackle, and then you lose a couple of receivers, and you lose your linebackers, and then they were lost. And it became very clear, especially when they lost their tackles, that they were going to be in trouble. Because if you can't protect your quarterback, if you can't have time, that's a problem. Which kind of leads us to the whole Armstead thing and releasing him, and they weren't on the same page, and it wasn't a fit with the coaching staff and all that kind of stuff. It just felt like it came apart at the seams. I don't think it's going to be enough to change course and overhaul there. But I think it's going to mean a significant upgrade to the roster across the board. If they can do that this offseason, I actually think they're going to be okay. But it's a big if, because the hardest position to find, even more than quarterback, is offensive tackle. And on both sides of the border. Like they're very, very hard to find. They're very hard to develop, especially when you can't put pads on in college and in pros in practice. So if Ottawa can find some, they'll be in decent shape. If they're not, then I think it all comes apart next year.
All right, we got Arash Madani on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline here. A few minutes left as we're going coast to coast. I don't care what you say. The Toronto Argonauts put up 58 points.
Yeah,
that's impressive. They're playing some good. They're playing some good football. Darren Bombing from at Bonfire Winnipeg, we had him on last hour. He thinks that Montreal is going to beat Toronto in the East Final this week. I'm kind of pushing my chips in towards Toronto because they are peaking at the right time. They're playing good football. Montreal has kind of stumbled down the stretch. How do you see that one playing out this weekend?
I'm gonna punt this until Thursday, Maz, and the reason why is I think there's two critical pieces for the Argos that we have to find out about. To me, outside of the quarterback, the most important player on that offense is Coxie, and I'm not sure if their number one receiver is going to be healthy or not. He got hurt in that last meaningless game against Edmonton. He's their home run hitter. I know there have been a couple of guys who've stepped up and elevated. I think they're going to need him, especially against an Alouette secondary. Ball hawks everywhere. The other is Deshaun Amos. Like they're up by 4 touchdowns, whatever it was, and their best defensive player goes down. So you just can't have both of those things happen in back-to-back weeks going into a division final. I know obviously day one was today, but let's see Thursday where those two guys are in the mix, because I think that plays a big factor. The other part of this is Chad Kelly. Will the ghosts of November past reemerge? What will Marc-Antoine Dequoy have waiting for him? And how is he going to try and mess with his head? I look at Dequoy, he reminds me a lot of my guy, Harrison Smith with the Vikings. He's all over the map. He's going to try and get into the quarterback's head. He's already in Chad Kelly's head. If Chad, ball security is job security. Chad cannot throw picks. He cannot go down into the quicksand like he did last year in the East Final.
Okay, so we don't want to talk about the CFL finals. Let's talk about the game of the week then. It's neither of those two?
It's the Hardy Cup. Come on now.
Yeah.
I am an unapologetic, huge fan of Canadian University football. To me, this is the best weekend of Canadian football, period. You have the 2 division finals. My beloved Bishop's Gators are hosting the Atlantic Championship. Ontario is going to be a heck of a battle. The game of the week out there, of course, Rams Huskies. In Quebec, they have already sold out Pep Stadium in Quebec City for the Rouge et Or and the Carabin. They played a regular season game in Montreal on Thanksgiving weekend. It's sold out in Montreal. This has turned into the rivalry. And for anybody watching and listening, if you have never been to a Laval-Montreal University football game, it should be on your Canadian football bucket list. It's right there with the Labor Day Classic in Regina. It is Canadiana like you haven't seen before, and it's dudes who are 24, 25 years old who've known each other and played against each other since high school, and they don't like each other, and it's awesome.
Well, the Laval Rouge et Or have been so good for so long. It was like, are they a university? Are they kind of like a semi-pro team almost, to the point of it almost seems unfair at times. But lately, the Montreal Carabin, where Danny Machocha came from, there's some good football out there. All right, Arash, we got to let you go. I guess there's no football tonight. Baseball's over. Is it hockey we're watching? Oh, the beloved Montreal Canadiens are taking on the Calgary Flames. Utah is in Winnipeg. Yeah.
I'm actually going to pack my suitcase for Grey Cup, so that's my entertainment.
All right.
See you, boys.
It's Coast to Coast with Arash Madani every Tuesday and Thursday here on the all-new Sportscage. If you missed any of that, you can always catch the podcast at sportscage.com. It's game day in Regina. The Pats are taking on the Prince Albert Raiders tonight at the Brand Center. We'll have the pregame show at 6:30 here on 620 CKRM and 7 o'clock play-by-play. And voice of the Pats, Dante DeCaria, will join us next. We're going to talk some roster moves after a trade last week. Stick close. It's the all-new Sports Cage on 620 CKRM.
The all-new Sports Cage is brought to you by Bronco Plumbing and Heating, where professional service is guaranteed. They'll treat you right. 781-2090.
Take a trip down memory lane. Weekdays at 1 o'clock with Colin Lovequist. Number Ones at 1. A full hour of country's greatest hits and the stories behind them. We'll take a look back at musical milestones, celebrate some country music birthdays, and a whole lot more. It's all brought to you by North Home Windows in Foam Lake. Number Ones at 1 with Colin Lovequist on the voice of Saskatchewan. 620 CKRM.
You get home from work, and as soon as you open the door, you realize, oh, this place smells like shocking surprise. You've got sewer problems. Let's be honest, sewer problems literally stink. You need to call someone who will get your sewer situation all sorted out. You need the sewer experts at Bronco Plumbing and Heating. They're number 1 in the number 2 business. Bronco Plumbing and Heating, serving Regina, Moose Jaw, and the surrounding area. 306-781-2090. Give them a call. They'll treat you right.
Your friends at Prairie Gun Traders in Avonlea have exactly what you need this fall. From muzzle loaders, rifles, to shotguns, you are totally covered this hunting season. Plus, browse through their great selection of ammunition, optics, calls, trail cams, scents, knives, and more. The hunting store that has it all. At Prairie Gun Traders in Avonlea. You have a friend in the game. Main Street, Avonlea, or check out prairieguntraders.ca.
Connect, the Heart of the Farm Conference, is back again November 7th and 8th at Sheraton Cavalier in Saskatoon, and they're inviting you. Join them for multiple speakers who will educate and inspire you, including Patty Duran, Murad Al-Khatib, and keynote speaker Alana Cook. Plus a trade show, useful knowledge, relationship building with multiple keynote addresses, tailored breakout sessions, networking, and an evening banquet. Learn more and buy tickets at womeninag.ca.
Hey Rider Nation, this is Dave Thomas, voice of your Saskatchewan Roughriders. It's the playoffs. That means the games are bigger, and so is the 50-50. Huddle up to riders5050.ca and you can watch the jackpot grow and get your playoff 50-50 tickets. It's a big Rider Nation touchdown with the playoff 50-50. Go green and go all the way. Everyone wins with the Riders in the playoffs.
License number LR240102.
Hun, I'm starving. What do we have to eat?
Avoid the annoyed.
Western pizza.
I really don't feel like cooking today.
Avoid the annoyed.
Western pizza.
I want lasagna.
I was thinking Caesar salad and garlic bread.
I had my heart set on chicken wings.
Avoid the annoyed.
Western pizza.
Avoid the annoyed with Western Pizza. Big on toppings, big on taste. Dine in or take out. Order today.
Western pizza.
Sorry to scare you in the shower. Mother sent me to tell you that Future Vision is having a big 2-for-1 sale, with international styles arriving daily.
Future Vision. Where'd you get those? Where'd you get those? Where'd you get those eyes?
Oh, and Future Vision is a proud recipient of the Consumer's Choice Award 2023.
The all-new Sports Cage continues. You can watch our live stream at sportscage.com and always on the radio. Saskatchewan's voice for local sports, 620 CKRM.
The Sports Cage is for Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Tonight, the Regina Pats will take on the Prince Albert Raiders at the Brandt Centre. Face-off is at 7 o'clock, and if you want to go, we've got a pair of tickets. Capital Ford Lincoln text line 306-936-6262. Text us your first and last name and your email address, and we'll let the double C's, Curtis and Colson, figure it out. Somebody's getting a pair of tickets. To give us a little preview and to talk about the newest Regina Pat, Jace Eglin, on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline, Dante DeCaria. Dante, exciting times, because did the Regina Pats just pull off maybe the steal of the season as far as trades go in picking up this Jace Eglin character?
I mean, it very well might be. I mean, he's not going to be in the lineup tonight. I think the coaching staff, when I spoke to them yesterday, is going to give him the week to practice and to just kind of get ready in terms of learning his teammates, the organization, and obviously the systems that Brad Haroff has in place. But obviously time will tell. I don't want to put a stamp on the kid and say that he's going to be a superstar right out of the gates. But I think, you know, as Alan Miller talks about, he's building for the future, and obviously this is a move for the future. He's only 17 years old, and obviously he was way too good for the SAS U18 league because he was lighting it up. I think 2.87 points per game down there. So obviously didn't want to play for the Wenatchee Wild, and Alan Miller clearly knew of that and made a trade with Wenatchee for a very, very, very cheap price in an 8th-round pick. So I think you have to like the trade either way.
Dante, what is the expectation bringing him in? Of course, like you say, he's got an offensive flair down at the under-18 AAA level, but it's a way different ballgame in the Western Hockey League.
Well, I think the nice thing about Jace is the fact that if you look at his career stat line, literally anywhere he's played, he's always been a scorer. So at least you know that you're going to get somebody who's going to have the potential to score. He's not, per se, somebody who's just going to sit on your 3rd or 4th line for the whole entire WHL career. I think that this team has aspirations for him to become a top 6 player in time. Now, I can't sit here and say right away that he will become one of those players, but I do believe that in time, once he gets accustomed to the league, he will be a top 6 player. Now, obviously, that remains to be seen. I have not seen him on the ice just yet. I've never seen him play. I've never seen him skate. But I think the expectation for him is obviously to come in here and compete like Brad Harrell's asked of every single player on this team, and to work hard, extremely hard every single day, and try to continue to earn a spot in this lineup, because as we know right now, the team is trying to get younger, and I think he only helps in terms of the direction that Alan Miller wants to take.
When you found out about the trade, and you said he's 17, he was playing in Swift Current, he's racking up points, and you know, I'm sure you were slotting him in. Who do you think he will end up playing with? You said he's not playing tonight. They're going to give him some time to get acclimated with the teammates. Who do you maybe see him playing with when he does get in the lineup?
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't want to change anything in terms of the top 6 right now. I've also liked the way Cole Temple has played recently. As far as I'm concerned, I could see him maybe slotting in a bottom 6 role. I mean, probably on the 4th line to start his career. Like, I think we have to be careful here, because it's tough to just throw a guy into the top 6. I mean, if you look at the Pats' top 6 right now, you've got Zach Moore coming back from injury tonight, Ty Spencer, Tanner Howe, Braxton Whitehead, and Zach Shantz, as well as Zachary Lansard. So I think those guys have been in the top 6 for some time, maybe an Anthony Wilson as well, a Jackson Vaughn. So, yeah, he's a right winger, so he's not a center. So I would expect him to maybe play on the 3rd or 4th line right wing.
Dante DeCaria, voice of your Regina Pats here on 620 CKRM. 7 o'clock face-off tonight, hosting the Prince Albert Raiders, and you got to meet them last week. And I would suggest that Max Hildebrand really set the tone in the overage goaltender for the Raiders, because one, maybe 2 bounces for the Pats, and that's a completely different outcome. Did you see it that way as well?
Yeah, no, I think exactly what you just said is what I think everybody inside the Brandt Center saw, maybe including the Prince Albert Raiders and Max Hildebrand himself. And he hasn't really played very well this season. Like, this is a guy who had an over 900 save percentage at 19 last year, and you'd expect as a 20-year-old that he would be able to replicate that, or maybe even more. But he hasn't. He's coming off an outing on Friday in which Prince Albert lost 9-4 to Swift Current, and he gave up 6 of those 9 goals. He wasn't very good. And he's had a couple of those games so far this season. But for whatever reason, he's been good against the Regina Pats. He was good in the season opener when the Pats won 3-2 in overtime, and he was very good the last time these two teams met on Wednesday in that 5-1 loss for Regina. So, hey, I think the Pats have kind of lacked a little bit of lady luck in the last couple of games or so. They hit a couple of crossbars, some posts, had some great saves from Swift Current's goaltender on Saturday night. In fact, they outshot the Broncos in that 4-2 loss on Saturday in Swift Current. They outshot them in the third period as well. So, hey, maybe tonight's the night in terms of the Pats getting their bounces, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
If there's one thing that Alan Miller knows how to do, that's build hockey teams, right? Whether it was with the Moose Jaw Warriors, working with Hockey Canada. And I would submit that it is a process, and obviously there's a plan that's in place for putting this together. But in the meantime, is confidence, or does that become an issue, or does the coaching staff keep an eye on that? Because obviously there's players that are playing in some pretty big roles that maybe they wouldn't get an opportunity to play on other teams.
Yeah, I think you always, as a coaching staff and just as an organization, you want to make sure that the morale and the confidence is high with everybody, and that includes your trainers, your equipment staff, your players, everybody. So I think that's obviously something that Brad Haroff, Ken Schneider, and Ryan Smith are keeping an eye on so far. It's something that I always look at in terms of being around these players because, I think it's a little bit different than maybe being at the pro level, but, I have a great relationship with all the guys, and, when I'm around the team, I'm always trying to make these kids feel good about themselves, whether it's things I say on the radio or how I interact with them in person. So as far as the morale is, it doesn't feel like a 5-game skid right now, just being around the group. A lot of smiles, a lot of kids that are happy to be Regina Pats, a lot of kids that are excited to where this team could be in the future. It's not always an easy road to get there. From speaking with our historian, Kevin Shaw, he pointed out that this team has never really gone through a true rebuild in a very, very, very long time. They never went through a real one with the Parker family. They didn't go through a true run under John Paddock. That got forced a little bit early thanks to Connor Bedard being drafted first overall, so that got sped up a little bit. So Alan Miller is truly going through a rebuild, like from the start. And fans are not used to that, but I think people need to be patient and people need to trust the process, as Millsy says. And as I like to say, in Millsy we trust.
Well, before we let you go, I need to know if you know a guy or not, because you hand out those cool cups at the games, and when you know it, we went to get popcorn and we forgot our cups last week, so we're down a couple in our household.
I don't even have a cup.
What the heck? You should know someone, don't you?
I know the people who do the cups. In fact, the guy who has those cups is walking right in front of me right now.
Well, there you go. Put in a word, man. Put in a word. Because you're handing them out again tonight, right?
Just saying that right now on the radio. Bryce Buns is the guy.
All right.
I just pointed right at him, too. I said, hey, make sure you get those cups.
All right. Well, Dante DeCaria, voice of the Regina Pats, we'll let you get to it. You got a game to call tonight. We'll have the pregame show for Bennett Dunlop Ford on the radio at 6:30 and then face off at 7 o'clock. And if you'd like to go to the game, all you got to do is text us, first and last name and an email address to 306-936-6262. It's a busy night, 11 games in the National Hockey League. And when we come back, we'll break it down, including that Utah-Winnipeg game. And from what our Hour one first guest told us about these Winnipeg Jets. Don't worry, Jets fans. They're not going anywhere. If you missed that, we'll recap. It's the all-new Sportscage on 620 CKRM, and you can watch our live stream on X or on our website at sportscage.com.
Water heater and water softener rentals are now available at Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Instead of paying big money up front, you can rent a water heater and water softener directly from Bronco without the worry or hassle. They have a long history of renting water heaters and water softeners, and they're maintenance-free. Bronco comes and does all that for you. Saskatchewan's best water heater rentals are from Bronco. Call 306-781-2090. Professional, courteous service. BroncoPlumbing.com.
Year-end clearance is happening right now at Crestview Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. We are clearing the lot to make room for new inventory, which means crazy clearance prices on remaining new 2023 and 2024 vehicles. Up to $20,000 off, and you can drive away with $0 down, and you don't have to pay until 2025. We have over 200 new vehicles to choose from, including the Jeep Grand Cherokee and the entire Ram truck lineup. Do not miss year-end clearance at Crestview Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
It's Power Bill Day.
This is Tim.
Hooray, hooray, it's Power Bill Day.
Tim loves getting his monthly power bill because Tim's power bill is teeny. Tim has a residential solar system from Keln Solar. It powers his home, and excess power is sent back to the grid for credits on his Sask power bill.
Give me those savings. Yeah.
Get a teeny tiny power bill.
Just like me. Woo!
Get a quote on a Keln Solar residential solar system at kelnsolar.com.
The straw that broke the camel's back? What does that even mean? Do camels even use straws? Are we talking paper or plastic? If you think this Saskatchewan winter might be the straw that breaks the camel's back, at least your local Cooper tire dealer carries Cooper Evolution Winter Tires. Cooper Evolution Winter Tires provide exceptional grip and traction in the snow and ice. See your local Cooper tire dealer for Cooper Evolution Winter Tires. And give that poor camel a break.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when Uh-oh.
There are some things that can get spoiled. A sunny day, maybe.
Aw, and no umbrella or anything.
And then there's Echo Sound, your SaskTel authorized dealer, where they have all the top-of-the-line smartphones with all the latest features. With such a wide selection and so many great plans, nothing can spoil it.
Yay, rain!
Echo Sound, your SaskTel authorized dealer in Fort Capel. EchoSound.ca.
Your Crawford's No Frills is here for you as the weather gets cooler and warm meals are being served around the family table. Crawford's No Frills considers themselves to be family, which explains their low prices. You wouldn't overcharge family, would you? The Crawford's No Frills family have great tasting quality food, special deals, and customers. So visit and plan your next family meal at No Frills. No bells, no whistles, no frills. Say yes to Crawford's No Frills. We won't be beat.
The all-new Sportscage is live streaming from our Century Studios in downtown Regina. Watch now at sportscage.com. Be part of the show by texting 306-936-6262. 620 CKRM.
In just a bit here, we're going to hear from Coach Corey Mace. It was day number one of practice as the Riders are getting set to take on the Bombers in the CFL West Final Saturday in Winnipeg. Dave, father of two fine young men. I've met both of your sons. Do you remember how your wife told you you guys were expecting a baby?
Oh, boy. I don't. I'm sure we just... I don't. Should I? I probably should, shouldn't I?
Well, no. The reason why I ask is if you go to our Sportscage Twitter, follow us at Sportscage. Derek Moncrief's wife. So Derek Moncrief, great career, Saskatchewan Roughrider. There she is. After their final game, she holds up a sign on the field. Number 29, I'm pregnant. And then they see, this is from their Instagram feed, and then there's like videos of them hugging. They already have one. So this is how to announce baby number 2. Because that's good. Because now we've all seen it on social media. There's a lot of gender reveals and videos, but you don't see a lot of the, hey, I'm pregnant. I've seen people put up the sonogram picture. Yeah. I think that's what my wife showed with her first. It was the sonogram picture, and I was like, oh. Yeah, wow. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, not trying to get you.
Yeah, now I'm in trouble. Thanks a lot, buddy.
You're not in trouble.
You're not going home to my house tonight. Of course, you're not in trouble.
I've been married. It was 15 years in July. I've spent most of those 15 years. If I'm not in trouble, I don't know. I don't know where else I'd be. And if you're out there and you're listening or you're watching and you're married and you always seem to be kind of on the hot seat, well, maybe you're doing something right because at least, you're still paying attention. All right, practice today, day number 1. It was cold at Mosaic Stadium. There was a little bit of snow falling. Lots going on. The big win on the weekend. Back at it, laser focused. And Dave had a chance to catch up with Coach Corey Mace.
Well, Coach Mace, what will it take to get a win in Winnipeg this weekend?
It's going to be loud for sure. Certainly, that's also another thing we talk about. We've got unbelievable amount of respect for that team and what they've been able to accomplish with a lot of their core players there, coaching staff, and they've earned that. But we're going to have to go into their house. It's going to be a hostile environment. What a time.
Now, having a discussion with Trevon Tate, he said that him and Logan Ferland had a discussion in the huddle as to who was going to play right tackle and who was going to play left tackle. Did you get involved in that discussion in any way, shape, or form?
No, man. I wasn't. I put full trust into Ed and Mueller and AB, all those guys on the offensive side. Specifically as it comes to that position, we've been very open. I think Logan can play all 5 positions. Obviously, my experience with Tate, knowing he can play right and left. Naturally, I think he's a left, to be honest with you. So, again, versatility, it's good to have.
Coach, what makes Caleb Saunders successful?
Man, I mean, he blue collar. He gonna work his tail off. You can give him 1 snap, it's gonna be awesome. You can give him 40, and then dang near 40 of them are gonna be just as awesome. He's hard to block. He's quick as a cat. He chased down Vernon for a sack. Ain't too many people doing that, specifically from the D tackle position. He's strong as ever. I think he thrives in weather like this. There's not too many situations you can put him in that he's not going to be able to make the play, do his job. So you love guys that can just focus in and lock in on doing their job, and he's one of those.
When he caught VA for that sack, he said it was less about his speed and more about his want to. What does that say?
Yeah, well, that speaks to him, but you got to give credit to his speed a little bit. Yeah, he was moving, he was digging. But that's Caleb, man. It's just his will. It's his mindset. And that's something we're trying to get in the whole building.
He's cool as a cucumber. That's Coach Corey Mace talking about Caleb Sanders, a guy who he's been around all year, didn't necessarily get a chance to start but man, the opportunities he's had, and then by about Labor Day, playing more and more and more. And do you expect, Dave, do you think that is Anthony Lanier maybe the odd man out again because of the play of a guy like a Caleb Sanders?
Yes, and a guy like Miles Brown. Now, Brown was nicked up in the last game, came out wearing a full brace today, so we'll see whether or not that transpires into Lanier coming back onto the roster for this week in Winnipeg or not. But definitely, when it comes to Caleb Saunders and Miles Brown, they have played their way onto the roster as they've just been that good.
All righty, CFL West Final Saturday. It will start with Countdown to Kickoff right here on 620 CKRM at 2:30. We'll do the Rider Nation pregame show 4:30 from Princess Auto Stadium in Winnipeg, and then kickoff will go at 5:30. It's going to be nuts, and apparently the weather's going to be nice. It's going to be both sunny and 8 degrees. It's the all-new Sports Cage. We're going to take a break, come back. We'll start hour number 3 with CFL legend, Grey Cup champion, and former rider Glen Suitor. Don't go anywhere. It's the all-new Sports Cage on 620 CKRM.
This is the Jim Pattison Children's Hospital Foundation Radiothon presented by CIBC Wood Gundy. We are in Saskatoon live right now with Jace. Now, Jace, you live here in Saskatoon. You've used the Pattison Children's Hospital just last year. What's your story? What happened?
So, probably about 3 days before I got really sick, I was experiencing some flu-like conditions. I got better, but then out of nowhere, it just spiraled up, and eventually it got out of control. So here I am with all these surgeries and operations done on me, in a coma for 5 days, and then after that, about 2 weeks in the hospital.
What was the diagnosis?
Cellulitis, which is a bacterial skin infection.
And how you doing now?
Healthy, strong, happy.
My man, all right here in town, our provincial children's hospital, providing some incredible care for you, my man, and our family. And it's a power hour, by the way. If you want to donate now at pattisonchildrens.ca or by calling 1-888-808-KIDS, your donation is going to be doubled by Co-op Hail Insurance, matching donations up to $5,000, and Gord and Barb Broda matching up to $150,000. So your $20 turns into $60, your $100 into $300. It's a feel good. You want to get on it right now. pattisonchildrens.ca.
Local communities are at the heart of what we do. Last year, more than 200,000 Saskatchewan people reached out for help through United Way's 211 service. When our friends and neighbors struggle, communities struggle. With your support, we can answer the call and connect to hope and help. Each of us have the ability to be there for our neighbors. Show your local love by donating today.
Visit UnitedWayRegina.ca and change lives today. Change begins with support.
The team of experienced farmland real estate agents at Shepherd Realty in Regina has just listed for sale 13 quarters with a yard site near Gravelburg, 4 quarters of farmland with a yard site near Crane Valley, 3 deeded grainland quarters with 4 quarters crown lease near Scout Lake, and 1 quarter of grainland near Mossbank. To learn more, or if you're considering selling your farm or ranch property, call Shepherd Realty at 352-1866. ShepherdRealty.ca.
Whether Smoky's after you or not, when you're on the road in your big rig, you're in a hurry to get to where you're going, and you need a part shop you can trust. Wolf Industries is the premium choice. They're your family-run truck mechanic shop with a full line of parts for big semis, with certified AC technicians for the hot summer. Stop in at their Grenfell location for all the parts and repairs you need. They're SGI accredited for safety inspections and have 24-hour emergency call-out. Wolf Industries, the best for your truck. 10-4.
Hospitals of Regina Foundation Home Lottery early bird deadline is midnight Friday. What if you win the Echo Lake Cottage early bird prize worth $775,000? This lakeside Ripplinger-built cottage is awarded fully furnished, decorated, and landscaped, plus $10,000 cash, and be in for the $1.4 million grand prize package show home. Early bird deadline midnight Friday. Buy now at hrfhomelottery.com. License LR 24-0046.
Our Regina Pats are rocking the Brandt Center this November with epic matchups, events, and giveaways. Score a foam cowboy hat at Western Night. Show up early on the 20th and get a Pats collectible Stadium Cup. Join your home team in raising awareness for important causes at the Better Together game and Cancer Awareness Night. Then remember to make some noise for our heroes at Canadian Armed Forces Night. See the full promotional lineup and secure your tickets at reginapats.com.
Go, Pats, go! Get your equipment out of the rain and snow and under the roof of a new storage building from Olympic Buildings. Have a warm, dry place to work and keep everything out of the cold. Olympic Buildings. Buildings to meet your budget. Visit olympic-buildings.ca.
Good evening. There's light rain in Regina, and it's 2 degrees. I'm Corey Atkinson from the Harvard Media News Center with 620 CKRM News for Echo Sound in Fort Qu'Appelle. Stay connected with a new cell phone from Echo Sound. Call 306-332-6711. The Jim Pattison Children's Hospital Radiothon, presented by CIBC Wood Gundy, is airing live from the hospital today and tomorrow from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. across Saskatchewan. During the event, families and medical staff are sharing stories to help raise funds for pediatric cardiology and respiratory care equipment. This year's donations will enhance cardiac diagnostics and respiratory treatments for children across the province, ensuring they can access life-saving care close to home. Prince Albert supporters Gord and Barb Broda are matching donations up to $150,000 to encourage support. Starting this afternoon, southern and southwestern Saskatchewan is set to experience snow and rain, potentially impacting road conditions and visibility. The Saskatchewan RCMP is urging drivers to stay updated on weather and road conditions through the Saskatchewan Highway Hotline. If travel is essential, the RCMP advises sticking to routes recently cleared of snow or ice. Winter driving tips include clearing snow from vehicles, slowing down on slippery roads, and avoiding cruise control. Travelers are also encouraged to keep emergency items in their cars, such as warm clothes, non-perishable snacks, and booster cables for added safety. It could be a close U.S. presidential election between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Kevin Hirsch of SaskAgToday.com says it looks like a close race to the White House.
And it could be a very difficult transition. It could take some time before we know the final result. And then everybody will try to estimate what the difficulties will be for Canada and trade, and specifically the agriculture sector.
Agriculture groups are concerned about U.S. protectionist policies that would affect trade with Canada, especially when the CUSMA agreement is up for renegotiation in 2026. Federal cabinet ministers say they're prepared for all possible outcomes of the U.S. election. The Liberal government has been working on a charm offensive for months, shoring up relationships in states with lots of cross-border trade. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says his job doesn't change no matter who's in the White House.
My job as Canadian Prime Minister has always been
to work with whomever the Americans elect to be their president and make sure that I'm standing up for Canadian values, Canadian interests, and Canadian jobs. And that's exactly what I'm going to continue to do.
Trudeau and the Liberal government have been in power since the Barack Obama administration. A woman testified in a Regina court today claiming chiropractor Ruben Mans inappropriately touched her during a 2011 appointment. The 47-year-old woman, whose identity is protected by a publication ban, said Mans reached under her shirt, removed his hands into her bra, and grabbed her breast without consent. She said she reacted by immediately leaving the clinic and reported the incident to a chiropractors association. The woman is one of 7 accusing Mans of sexual assault and said she has been cautious with chiropractic treatment since. Mans' defense attorney questioned her memory of the event, including details of her visits and who she told. And the inventor of the modern-day backpack is being remembered.
Backpacks used to be big, heavy, and used mostly just by outdoorsmen and campers. In the 1960s, Murray McCrory came along, winning a contest in the Pacific Northwest to design a lighter-weight aluminum pack. After that, he and his then-wife Jan further tweaked the product to carry their books at the University of Washington. They named their new company Jan Sport and eventually became popular with students all over the country. Murray McCrory, who also invented the dome-shaped tent, died last month at the age of 80. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
That's your 620 CKRM News. Read more stories from around your community and around the province at sasktoday.ca and 620ckrm.com. Your weather is next.
On November 11th, Canadians from coast to coast observe Remembrance Day to remember the brave men and women who stood up for our country in her time of need, so we can enjoy the freedoms that so many of us take for granted. On Remembrance Day, Michael Cram, MP for Regina Wascana, urges you to wear a poppy and take a moment to give silent thanks to all the courageous Canadians who fought for our country's freedom. A special reminder from Michael Cram, MP for Regina Wascana. Visit michaelcrammp.ca.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when... Uh-oh.
There are some things that can get spoiled. A sunny day, maybe.
Aw, and no umbrella or anything.
And then there's Echo Sound, your SaskTel authorized dealer, where they have all the top-of-the-line smartphones with all the latest features. With such a wide selection and so many great plans, nothing can spoil it.
Yay, rain!
Echo Sound, your SaskTel authorized dealer in Fort Capel. EchoSound.ca.
I'm Corey Atkinson with your 620 CKRM Precision Weather Forecast, brought to you by Linex Regina. Serious protection, killer looks, 1865 McCarra Street, and for Matt's Furniture. Visit mattsfurniture.ca. Now here's Precision Weather meteorologist Joe Shockham.
Cloudy with some light snow tonight as a weak disturbance passes through the northwestern part of the United States and northern Rockies. Shouldn't be too big of a deal with up to 2 centimeters of snowfall expected. Low temperatures tonight around -6, winds north to northeast at 15 to 25 kilometers per hour. Early flurries tomorrow, then becoming partly sunny, highs around 2, winds west to southwest at 15 to 25 kilometers per hour. Partly cloudy tomorrow night, lows around -8, winds southwest at 15 to 30 kilometers per hour. Mainly sunny Thursday as high pressure builds in from our southwest, highs around 6. Winds will be on the breezy side out of the west to southwest at 20 to 35 kilometers per hour. Partly and mostly sunny Friday, milder, highs around 10. And partly sunny Saturday, mild, highs around 11. With your 620 CKRM weather forecast, I'm Precision Weather Meteorologist Joe Shockham.
Across the province at this hour, in Saskatoon, it's +2, Swift Current -1, Assiniboia +1, Moosomin Broadview +3, Yorkton Melville +5, Estevan is +4, and Weyburn is +1. At this hour in Moose Jaw, it's cloudy, winds are from the north at 27, and it's +1. Regina has a light rain shower, winds are from the north at 3, and it's +2. For more local news that matters to you, subscribe to the daily newsletter at sasktoday.ca.
When you want the best for your truck, you want Line-X. Your truck has withstood the harshest elements Saskatchewan has thrown at it. Rocks, gravel, rain, sleet, and snow, and left with no chips, no rust. Line-X protective coating keeps your truck's bed liners, rocker panels, and bumpers looking like brand new. Don't settle for Brand X. Go with Line-X. It's serious protection. Come see why everybody loves taking their truck to Line-X Regina for their rocker panels, bumpers, and more. Line-X. Make your truck complete. 1865 McCarra Street.
He's at it again. Matt's sharpening his pencil to save you big money at Matt's Furniture. Now till November 20th, save more with Maytag. Check out the Maytag front load washer with extra power and 12-hour fresh span option for just $11.99. Get it in white or upgrade to Volcano Black for $100 more. Or the Maytag front load electric dryer with extra power and quick dry cycle, which also comes in Volcano Black for an additional $100. Matt's Furniture in Fort Capel, Kamsack, Melville, and Foam Lake, or online at mattsfurniture.ca.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents the all-new Sports Cage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Be a part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262. The all-new Sports Cage. Streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
It's the final hour of the all-new Sports Cage. Thanks for being part of it. It's Maz and Dave Thomas filling in for Barney. He'll be back tomorrow. If you want to jump in, you want to comment on anything, the Capital Ford Lincoln text line, 306-936-6262. If you've missed any of the show, Arash gave his thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs. We also had our SJHL report with Benny Walchuk, and Darren Bombing joined us off the top of the show to talk about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and how they're going to their 6th straight CFL West final. They've been to 4 straight Gary Cups. They're looking to make it number 5. And did you know Zach Caleros, what did we say, Dave? He's 6-1 in the playoffs and 5-0 at home as a Winnipeg.
Yeah, he's been
Blue
pretty
Bomber.
good. Yeah, he's been pretty good.
Yeah, but the forecast, if you're planning on making the road, so the game is sold out in Winnipeg. We knew that last week, and it's going to be loud. There's going to be 33,000 people there going nuts. If you are part of Rider Nation and you're making the trip and you're like, what do we pack? What do we wear? Although weather is not great here in Regina today, a little snowy, a little cold. Forecast Saturday, Winnipeg, sunny and 8 degrees at kickoff, which for November the 9th, that's about as best you could hope for, right? Other than the miracle we had in 2013, where after a crazy Arctic block of winter came in, that finally on Grey Cup Sunday, for whatever reason, the football gods smiled and a Chinook blew through, which never happens in Saskatchewan, and it was a perfect day for football. Time to bring in our next guest. It's Glen Suitor for Quality Tire, with 9 locations across Saskatchewan, qualitytire.ca.
The all-new Sports Cage with CFL and Saskatchewan Roughrider legend Glen Suitor is brought to you by Quality Tire. With 9 locations across Saskatchewan, visit qualitytire.ca.
A lot of people may not know this, but on Friday night, there was a gentleman in a restaurant sitting in the corner, and he didn't know that I was there, and I just happened to walk over and walk up to one Glen Suitor and ask for his autograph. Did you? I was like, he's not going to know it's me, because you were heavy in conversation then when you looked up. But then we did a selfie. Glenn suggested we do a selfie, not even me. And Suits is older. He's doing selfies. It's good to be a Rider Nation. And there's no free shout out, so we're not going to say where. But what did you have for dinner that night? Because I saw when the plate came out, it looked good.
I had the pork chop, and the pork chop is outstanding in this particular restaurant.
Okay.
and our whole table, which was TSN crew, was the chicken halas, which and that's as far as I'll go. No more hints. But Maz, you predicted it. We had to talk about the game and the game the next day and the matchups, and had a good conversation about that. And I think a lot of people, you and I both were on the same page. Dave, I'm sure you were too, but felt that the edge was. Saskatchewan had the edge. I mean, in a few different categories, but if you were to rank the 6 playoff teams going into the semifinal, I would suggest that based on the last month and a half, the Lions would be ranked 6th. Now that takes nothing away from winning a playoff game. You have to earn it. A great performance by AJ Ouellette, which is the reason they brought him into Saskatchewan to do exactly what he did in the playoff game. I mean, Sam Emelis just keeps pushing the ceiling. He was outstanding. And I was real happy for Nelson Lacombo because in the pregame show, Justin and I talked about maybe one of the keys being with Vernon Adams wanting to push the ball deep. And he loves those sort of bender routes to Justin McInnes. He wanted to get Hatcher in the seams and get Hatcher deep. That Nelson Lacombo's play would be crucial. How does he play the middle? Can he get that first interception in his career? Because he's played a lot of games now, and he was still searching for that first interception. Once you get one, the confidence just explodes, and they come in bunches. He could have had two in the game, one that he juggled a little bit, but that one to Hatcher was a monster play late, kind of took the last sort of gasp out of the Lions. And I just thought, good for him, because he's been playing real well in the second half of the season and just couldn't get that first one to get started. So real happy for Lacombo.
Well, Glenn, I hate to break this to you, but Chris wasn't asking for just your autograph. He actually he went ahead and he put his dinner on your room bill, so that's what the signature was for. Sorry to tell you that. But speaking of surprises, was there anything one way or the other that surprised you in that football game, good, bad, or otherwise?
Not really. It was surprised me that it took so long for Vernon Adams to start targeting Justin McInnes. It was late in the second quarter that he finally started going to him, and they ended up scoring with Justin. He had one touchdown in the game, as you know, but that was maybe the only one. I really believe that the matchup was the big plays from Vernon Adams, those chunk plays between 20 and 35 yards that he loves, that when he's on and those plays are happening, the Lions can play with anybody in the league. But it also was strength against strength, because the Riders' strength defensively was taking the ball away when teams attempted those type of throws. And that's where Roland Milligan came in. And as we mentioned, Nelson Lacombo. So 3 interceptions by VA, and, Sales also had one right there. But the end of the day, strength against strength, and the takeaways, again, won by the Riders. And when they win the takeaway, now I want to preface this, because when they win the takeaway, they win the game. You could say that about a lot of teams, but they have been the best in the business at it. Now, there was 2 teams that they lost the takeaway category to in the regular season. One was the Lions, and they exercised that demon in the semifinal, and they won it with a +2. I think it was +2, right? +2 or +3. And the other one was the Banjo Bowl in Winnipeg, where the Bombers won with a +2, and the Riders were a -2. So there's another demon to slay coming up in this West Final.
So Friday on the show, Barney and I were talking, and I had said it's playoff football, and there was a lot of talk about the big plays. And I said, special teams. Sean White is a pretty good, accurate, doesn't miss a lot field goal kicker. Flintoff, good punter, second or third best average in the league. And then Sean White ends up extra point, field goal, end up costing him points and momentum. It was all those small little plays that, if they get those points and they keep the game close, and you see on a lot of those interceptions, Glenn, and I've watched no film when it comes to football. You've watched millions of hours of it. There were a lot of plays. If you were watching film, there was guys underneath open, and a VA could have been patient or maybe not forcing. There's guys that were open, but instead they were trying to force it into where the coverage was. And I thought, hopefully they don't realize this. There's a lot of stuff that VA just keeps looking down the field, but he's not seeing what's right in front of him. And when we had Darren Bombing on, he had talked about how the Bombers' bread and butter this year, although Brady Oliveira's numbers may not be great rushing at times, it's that short 1 or 2 yard pass that is their run game that they exploit, that has really helped them this year. That's what worries me this week when we start talking about the Bombers, because Zach Collaros is not afraid to go deep, but he's also not afraid to throw the short ball too.
Well, that's Brady Oliveira, and again, the finalist for outstanding player. Again, I think Roland should have got the nod, but okay, Brady Oliveira gets the nod. But it is that short game. It's an extension of the run, really, in Canadian football, where you saw Ottawa do it in the Eastern semifinal, where they weren't even really playing with a true tailback anymore. They sort of just said, you know what, we're just going to throw hitch screens and things like that to our receiver slash back, and basically forget about conventional run. And I don't think for a second that the Riders would go there, but that's what, in a lot of ways, Brady can do both. You don't have to make a substitution there. So he can swing out of the backfield, catch that. I think he's first or second in the league in the regular season as a tailback catching the ball out of the backfield. So that is definitely a threat. And what does that mean defensively? Often it means you've got to play more man-to-man and put a linebacker on Brady out of the backfield. And so that he doesn't have that space to turn and get 7 or 8. You have to take him away immediately at the line of scrimmage almost. So he's swinging out of the backfield, a defensive back or a linebacker would have to jump him immediately so that Zach would automatically say, my tailback's out of the picture. I've got to throw it down the field to the curls or the ends or whatever he's got called. So, that's all strategy. We can talk more about that on Thursday, but I just think, it's such a great matchup running the ball with AJ Ouellette on one side and Brady Oliveira on the other. If you like sort of American smash mouth type football, I think you're going to see a little of that in the West Final. You're going to see two powerful backs that invite contact and also have the speed to run by tackling angles. And this example replay played on this Ouellette touchdown in the Western semifinal. That's a great example of it. Low pad level, defenders start bracing themselves for impact, and that's when he uses his quickness to run right by them.
Glenn, before I get to my question, don't forget in that Labor Day rematch, by the way, remember the Bombers blocked that punt on the first Riders' possession of the game, which doesn't factor into the turnovers. But I want you to take me inside the huddle, a CFL huddle, if you will. I had a great conversation today with Trevion Tate at Rider practice, because you'll recall when Trevor Reed went down from the left tackle spot, Tate went from right tackle to left tackle, and we were talking about how big of an adjustment that was, especially for him in game. And he says to me, well, actually, it was supposed to be Furlan that went to left tackle, but we decided in the huddle it was going to be me because I've played on the left more than he has, so I went left and he went to the right. How often does stuff like that happen in the huddle with, forget what those guys over there in the sideline say, we're doing this?
I love that story. In fact, I'm going to steal it and then use it on the air.
Trademark the Sportscage.
Yes, I will. I'll try and give you credit for it. It does happen, and it happens with teams that have the leadership. It happens with teams that are trusted by their coach, and vice versa. I remember many times that either Bobby Jerson or Richie Hall and I would change plays in the defense, and often I would be, I would catch an earful from Ted Heath, our defensive coordinator, on the sideline when I came off, because he would signal in the defense. We in the huddle would decide it wasn't the right defense for what we thought we needed, and Bobby would persuade me, or Richie Hall would persuade me, and I'd say, guys, let's go with what we believe in right here in this huddle, and do that. Let's just do it. Forget it. And then I'd go to the sideline and I'd say to Coach Heath, yeah, I didn't see you were kind of blocked by another player, and I missed. It forced me into a complete lie with my coach. But we did it. I wouldn't say really often, but I would say it happened in the Grey Cup. In '89, probably 5 or 6 times.
Wow.
Yeah, where we just completely changed the defense that was called from the sideline. And so, I think when you have, chemistry between your coach, and your coach trusts the players, the leaders in the group and the leaders in the huddle, and those leaders trust that, they're not betraying the process. They're basically have a feel for it. Those are the guys out there. and they're saying, hey, I'd rather play left. What do you think? And then, well, let's do it. And I'm sure Corey went, that's not kind of what we drew up. And he was fine with it when he saw the results.
Now, apparently that conversation lasted maybe 3 seconds. It was quick. So it's a 20-second play clock. So I'm assuming in your instances when you're describing it, like there's not a lot of time to sit around and, well, if we do, like it's got to be quick, right? Like,
yeah, no, there's no debate, and there's no. It's as simple as this. Richie Hall turns and says, that man defense we called, let's play zone this time. And I give him kind of a look like, you sure? And it's all it takes, that split second look like, be right. And then he goes, because I was calling the coverages in the huddle. So as soon as he'd turn to me and say that, I'd give him that look, and then he'd give me the nod, and I'd turn and call the play. So it was basically done. And almost never, if it was a leader in the group, it wasn't if it was a young guy. If it was a young guy or a second-year guy or guys that would want to call a play that maybe they would like but not be best for the rest of the group, which can happen. You had to use a little judgment in there. But, yeah, I think it's a great sign, guys. It really is. It's a sign that this team trusts their coaching staff. The coaching staff trusts the leaders in the huddle. And, I bet you Trevor can change plays. I bet you Trevor can, take a play and say, hey, I'm going to go straight over here. Forget the read. I'm going straight. And just so Emilus knows that in this particular thing, he feels something, and let's do it. I love it. There was times I was free and could play anywhere, and I would tell one of the halfbacks, I have a feeling they're going to throw it to Alan Pitts here, and I'm going to jump it if they do. And you're on the other side. You're on your own because I'm committing to Alan Pitts here. And that wasn't really the design of the defense, but we felt as a group, with Terry Irvin and those guys back there, all veteran players, that, we could do some of this stuff. We were out there. We can make plays. And I always said when we broke the huddle, we better be right.
Yeah. Hey, Glenn, I'm not sure, Curtis or Colson, if you want to bring it up again, the Vernon Adams Jr. press from yesterday, to hear the emotion in his voice, you feel bad for the man. But if anything, it also, too, besides when his voice starts cracking, does it not feel like the weight of the world is off his shoulders because hopefully it's finally over and done what he had to live through this year? Here, we got it right here.
I was coming to hold down this team, keep us in second place, and get us a home playoff game, and that's what I did. Went 4-2 as a starter. And, I felt like that was going to be the same thing this year, and it wasn't. And that really crushed me because, Rick, he put the most confidence in me last year after I threw those 6 interceptions, and he kept me in. And no coach has ever gave me that much confidence. And then so, when I came back and they told me they didn't know I was getting my spot back or anything, that kind of just totally crushed me. It did. I'm not going to lie. But again, I wasn't going to be whining and complaining about it. I had to come to work every day with a smile on my face and help however I could. And I felt like I did that. And I brought good energy. And I wasn't going to bring anyone down.
See, to me, that's the most outstanding player award right there for what he went through all season.
Yeah,
And,
it's
taking the high road, even there where the season's over. You don't necessarily have to.
Yeah, he did a great job of that all year long. And I have nothing but respect for Vernon Adams, and Vernon Adams will help in a big way whatever team he ends up on. Here's a little sort of just a thought that when free agency hits at the end of Grey Cup, and when I say free agency, trade talks, things like that, usually teams wait till the end of Grey Cup, and Vernon's under contract, so there would have to be a trade. But I think with Bo Baldwin as a quarterback coach in Calgary, that's an interesting one for me because, I believe that, and this is not from talking to Rick Campbell after the fact, but I think this is going to be Nathan Rourke's team next year, and Vernon Adams will be moved. And if that happens, I think Calgary would be a front runner because of Bo Baldwin. Bo Baldwin worked with Vernon Adams in college. And in fact, he's the quarterback guru that worked with Bo Levi Mitchell, Matt Nichols, Michael Riley, and Vernon Adams. And he has said a long time ago in an article, he said that Vernon Adams was the best of those four that he coached. So I see that as
a pretty good compliment.
Yeah, and I see that as sort of a match made in heaven, really, for him to go to Calgary. Anyway, having said that, he did a great job all season, trying to just stay a pro, be ready, help Nathan Rourke when he was turned. And I think if Rick Campbell, if you asked him and he was being really honest, he did 2 years ago in 22, Nathan got hurt, and when he was healthy, he got his job back. This year, Vernon Adams got hurt, Nathan played, and when Vernon Adams was healthy again, he didn't get his job back for 3 more games. And I think if Rick Campbell could do it over again, he might have waited until Vernon was healthy and then put him in as soon as he was, see how they rolled there, and then could always go back to Nathan if Vernon Adams had one of those games. And when I say one of those games, like in his past, he's had those games where, as he mentioned in the clip, the one in Toronto where he threw 6 picks. So he's had those moments. And if he had another one, but maintain that you don't lose your job because you're hurt, if he could do it again, he'd probably do it. I haven't asked him, and I might in Grey Cup week, but I would think that would be something he'd be thinking about.
Glenn, I'm sure you went ahead and analyzed that football game after we had a chance to watch it on Saturday. Vernon Adams Jr., after the contest, told us that, he knew he had to force the ball. It was a time where he had to force the ball, and that's where the last 2 picks came from, to Lacombo and, of course, to Roland Milligan Jr. Aside from those, you take those out, was there a defining moment or defining truth, if you will, to the game, and the fact that maybe the Riders were just that good, or did BC just not do enough to get the victory when you're analyzing the outcome?
No, I think the Riders were that good, and I think the Riders had that balance. I remember looking at, I think it was the halftime stats and seeing the time of possession difference and how much more that the Riders had the ball. And that didn't necessarily early in the game reflect in the score, but it did show that Trevor Harris was putting drives together and keeping possession of the football and not giving Vernon Adams more chances to sling it deep and to make those big plays down the field. So, and wearing down the defense. Plus, I'd also give it to the Riders because the balance that they brought with AJ Ouellette and the run game and how, the reason he was brought in was on display in that Eastern semifinal. So, I think all of a sudden, this is not all of a sudden, it's been that all year, but maybe hasn't got the pub that it deserves. But this receiving core now is a dangerous receiving core. And I think the Bombers took notice. If they didn't, they should. And I think the Riders can match their run game. Oliveira is the heart and soul of the Bombers offense, but I think they can be matched in a running game scenario and balance in the offense with Ouellette. Yeah, I think it was the Riders earning it. I will also say, though, and again, this takes nothing away from Saskatchewan, that of the 6 ranked teams, if you ranked them based on the last month and a half, the BC Lions would have been ranked 6th of the playoff teams.
All righty, we'll wrap it here. Glenn joins us every Tuesday and Thursday, right after 5 o'clock Thursday. With Barney. We'll get into the weekend games, and we'll break down what we think Montreal, Toronto, and then Saskatchewan, Winnipeg.
Glenn, can you let me in on where you're going to be this weekend? I want an autograph.
Yeah, all right. I'm going right now to check my Amex. You guys got a scam going on. That's pretty good.
TSN's got a lot of money. Hey, listen, the kids wanted to go to Palm Springs. That's Glen Suitor for Quality Tire. If you missed any of Glen's visit here today, you can always check out the podcast for Glen or any of our guests. All you need to do is go to our website, sportscage.com. We're going to take a break, come back. Busy night in the NHL, and there's a special show in town tonight. And if I had a chance to be part of the show, but it's not date night at our house, maybe this will be the key to this weekend if you're part of Rider Nation. We'll explain in just a few. It's the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM.
The all-new Sports Cage is brought to you by Busy Bee Doors. Busy Bee will repair or replace your residential or commercial garage doors so you don't get stuck in or out. Catch the buzz. Busy Bee Doors, the garage door specialists.
Harvard Heals with the annual Jim Pattison Children's Hospital Radiothon.
Hi, my name is Liz Ohitwa. I am the Senior Pediatric Outpatient Respiratory Therapist and Respiratory Coordinator for the Complex Care Program. The biggest challenge we face is we encounter a lot of funding issues for equipment and a lot of the supplies that are needed to go with this equipment. So unfortunately, not all of the items are covered through our provincial healthcare system or some of the other funding agencies that we deal with. So we're often left trying to find some creative ways to find extra funding to get these things covered for families, because as we know, medical equipment is quite expensive. So we know there's a lot of kindness and generosity across the Saskatchewan people, and we would love for them to donate to our kids so that we're able to provide them with the best quality of life, best access to therapy, and best access to equipment and support. The parents, caregivers, and guardians of these children take on an enormous burden of care in a highly stressful environment, and the donations would help us provide high-quality care and support that give our families reassurance in the care that they provide for their child.
Donate now. Call 1-888-808-KIDS. That's 1-888-808-5437. Sask Power is working to improve the power system in your area. In order to do their work safely, they need to shut the power off for customers in the town of Wolseley from 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. tomorrow, November the 6th, weather permitting. Again, the power will be out for 2 hours tomorrow from 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. for customers in the town of Wolseley. For updates on this outage, visit saskpower.com/outages. Sask Power apologizes for the inconvenience and thanks you for your patience.
Eder Seed and Processing east of Regina is always looking for seed, particularly brown and yellow flax and large caliber peas, including forest, comfort, spruce, and striker green peas. They're splitting peas for human consumption, and they're always looking to buy. Eder Seed and Processing is licensed and insured with the Canadian Grain Commission. Call Jim at 522-1668 for delivery options and prices. That's 522-1668. Eder Seed and Processing, just east of Regina off Highway 33.
Hi, this is Kendra with Harvard Media at day one of the Radiothon going on at the Jim Pattison Children's Hospital in Saskatoon, raising funds for cardiac and respiratory care at Saskatchewan's Children's Hospital. You can make the difference in so many lives across the province, the children and families today and for generations to come, all pulling together for the health and future of our province. Little hearts, little lungs are central to everything done at the Jim Pattison Children's Hospital. And something you might not know is that every child and mom-to-be, including unborn babies, undergo a heart and lung check when they're admitted to the Jim Pattison Children's Hospital. So your support makes such a difference, and all donations are proudly matched by Gord and Barb Broda up to $150,000. Now, the Radiothon is going to be wrapping up here for the day. We're going to be back on the air 6 a.m. tomorrow, and they will continue to take your donations overnight. You can get those donations in now online at pattisonchildrens.ca, and if you've got your phone handy, call 1-888-808-KIDS and make the difference with your donation to the Jim Pattison Children's Hospital Radiothon.
Did you know it's the best time of year to buy your Claws 2025 equipment? Get incredible savings with early order offers, like $20,000 off Lexion combines, $15,000 off Xerion tractors, $10,000 off Axion tractors, $15,000 off Jaguar harvesters, and $6,000 off Arion tractors. Make the best of every harvest with Claws, made for more. For full products and availability, visit claws.com.
Get it hot and get it fast. Western Pizza
Some will try to tell you 8 inches is enough. Others will say 10 inches will do. But when you want a lot of pizza, you gotta hanker down with a delicious 13-inch pepperoni from Western Pizza. Why mess with a good thing? You know what you want. 13 inches of pepperoni pizza perfection from Western Pizza. Western Pizza. Big on toppings, big on taste. Dine in or take out. Order today.
And get it hot and get it fast. Western Pizza.
When planning a mini winter getaway, take a step back in time with the historic Grant Hall Hotel in Moose Jaw. Built in the 1920s, this luxurious hotel features classic designs, 58 styles of rooms, the most elegant meeting rooms, and a banquet hall. Spend the day exploring, then enjoy an extravagant, relaxing dining experience at the Grant Hall Dining Room and Burrowing Owl Lounge. They have gift cards too, perfect for stocking stuffers. The Grant Hall Hotel Moose Jaw, your vacation destination in a notorious little city with an amazing history.
Uh-oh, the power's out and the lights are gone. It's dark. What do? If you had a standby generator from Shorty Generators, you could just keep doing whatever you want. Keep the power flowing all the time with Shorty Generators. They offer the largest selection of generators in Saskatchewan with all the major standby generator brands like Generac, Kohler, Champion, Cummins, and Briggs & Stratton. They can have it installed in your home so you'll never have to wonder what to do when the power goes out again. ShortyGenerators.ca.
Welcome back to the all-new Sports Cage. Get social with us. Follow us on X at Sports Cage. Watch our video stream at sportscage.com and always on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Welcome back. We got about 20 minutes left to go in the show today. Dave, I know you've been busy. There's been a lot of football lately. There's so much going on. Do you and your wife still do date night? Like, is that something you'll lock in on the calendar to be like, no, it doesn't matter what's happening. We're taking time for ourselves?
Yes. Yeah, there's time. Like, we don't put it on the calendar per se, but all right, hey, let's go ahead. This is our night. You know what I mean?
So tonight, if it was date night and you were going to the Connexus Arts Center, psychic medium Matt Fraser is there.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, if I got on stage or I saw him, I'm asking, who's winning on Saturday? That's the only thing. I don't care what else you're going to do or you're going to hypnotize people. Be like, who's winning on Saturday and what's the score? If you're really worth your weight in gold here, tell us what's going to happen and we're going to hold you to it.
Apparently my child watches Barney too much because they did a discussion at school as to whether or not you believed in psychics and all that stuff. And he said, well, why aren't they all millionaires? He goes, because a guy likes to sprinkle, don't you know? And I'm like, you're listening to Barney way too often, kid. Way too much.
Well, and here's the thing. If you're like, well, wait a minute, there's a psychic in town tonight. What about Ravine? Ravine is on Saturday at the Connexus Arts Center. Ravine, the legend continues. So that's Ravine's son. We found this out a couple weeks ago. That's Saturday. So maybe you're a bit neurotic and you don't trust the first opinion. Maybe you go see multiple doctors. This is your week in Regina to go see multiple psychics. You've got Matt Fraser tonight. Now, Matt Fraser, from what I've seen, because I Googled him, he's of the younger generation of psychics, where it looks like Ravine, the legend continues. That's old school.
Understood. Okay. Gotcha.
11 games in the NHL tonight. Ottawa is at Buffalo. I don't know why. Who is it from Buffalo that I follow on Twitter, and they do a podcast, and it's so funny because they always put clips up, as you'll see, like these social clips, and it's always like, even with Lindy Ruff, we suck. This rebuild's, well, he goes, we've never not been in a rebuild. It's been 20 years of awful and all of that, and it just, and I know they are out there. I don't know how many there are, but Buffalo Sabres fans, it's probably going to be a long year. They're taking on Ottawa. Toronto's at Boston. If you're a Pooley, Keniston Super Draft, no Austin Matthews. What are they saying? It was an upper body injury, right? That he's going to be out of the lineup with?
I believe so, yeah.
And it's funny, Austin Matthews, throughout his career, he's been one of the more durable players. Like, he's never been out for extended periods of time. And knock on wood, like, if you can have that, and he's just consistent, I hope that, it's funny, I don't necessarily love the Leafs, but a guy like that, you'd hope someday he could win a Stanley Cup. And the reason why I say that is because I saw a picture on the weekend of Joe Pavelski at one of his kids' hockey games. And you're like, he played 1,400 and some games in the NHL and never won a Stanley Cup. And that probably will be the one thing that'll haunt him forever.
You know what's interesting is Connor McDavid. Have you seen the latest on him? So he's been back and skating. Sort of sidetrack. I know that the Oilers aren't on the ice tonight, but he's been back and he's been skating. I think that Connor McDavid secretly is a University of Saskatchewan fan because next week is reading week. And there's always a whole bunch of students from the U of S that go and take in a game. It used to be at Rexall Place. That used to be what a lot of students would do during the reading week. Go figure why you're not reading. But now they make the trek to Rogers Arena. And, of course, Connor McDavid's supposed to be out a couple of weeks. So if Connor McDavid comes back early, then all of a sudden he's there for the U of S fans. So who knows? Maybe it's a conspiracy.
Nice. Could be ahead of schedule. I mean, although the Oilers did beat the Flames the other night, they could use all the help they can get. Because, I mean, it just goes to show that Leon Draisaitl quietly, I would say, is neck and neck for still one of the. He'll never get the praise. He'll never get the McDavid, pub. But over time, how good is he?
Well, he's good. But they did get shut out by the Devils 3-0 last night, though, too. So, just saying. If you can have Connor McDavid in your lineup, you're going to take Connor McDavid.
Oh, yeah, you're going to take him. Yeah. Philly at Carolina, Calgary's at Montreal, Pittsburgh at the Islanders, Utah's at Winnipeg. Winnipeg has 11 wins, and the owner is not happy because there's only, if the building holds 15,000, there's only about 12,000 showing up to games. But hey, on a Tuesday night, if the tickets are $200 to $300 a piece, is the average person, the average family affording that? No. Like,
you raise a very good question. I don't know what tickets would be in Winnipeg tonight.
It's funny. You're in a Canadian city, but you have to charge NHL prices to pay the guys. And like Darren told us in the first hour, it's like you've got to do it.
The double season they've taken that as a challenge. We're all trying to find out what a ticket price is for tonight. I can see them working.
Well, and here's the thing. In Edmonton, in Calgary, and Vancouver, you get a lot of, and obviously Toronto and Montreal, you get a lot of corporate seats. Businesses are buying these for business purposes. And so, yeah, ticket says $275 each on it. Well, it's a corporation that bought it. It's no big deal. But for the average person, look at Colson.
Upper deck is $53.99. That's the cheapest you're going to get.
What's the lower stuff?
Yeah.
$267.
Yeah, it's all above 200 if you're in the lower bowl by the looks of it.
Yeah, and it's early. It's what, November the 5th?
Yep.
Yeah,
and you're dropping $500 to go to a meaningless game that may or may not have anything to do in the standings. Tampa's at St. Louis, LA at Minnesota, Seattle at Colorado, Vancouver at Anaheim. Where are we on the Canucks? Are we? Was last year a fluke? Are they?
Well, they're trying to do it again without their number one goaltender, right? And who knows if Thatcher Demko will play again. And that's not to alleviate the offensive struggles at times of the Canucks this year, but when your forwards and your offense has to worry about playing defense because you don't have a goalie, it becomes a little bit of a burden, right? So you can't be that offensive. So I think that's what's hurting. And
tonight, it's a good thing that it's Tuesday because I don't think Amazon would have made this their prime game yesterday. Columbus at San Jose. Now, I'm not saying that you don't watch it, you don't skip it. I may watch a rerun of Monday Night Raw because did you know that?
Don't.
I won't get into wrestling. Don't. But Columbus and San Jose. I'm thinking if we were putting a little money on it, you've got to go Columbus because I don't know that San Jose. That's got to be a tough. You got to feel like, what did you say when you were doing play-by-play? What was the win count for the Blades that one year? You said 7?
7.
Could you imagine? Could you feel for the San Jose Sharks broadcast team and what they're going to go through this year?
Colson's got a number.
I was just going to say, if you're looking for something cheaper, you can get resale tickets for $140 from the second row.
So, second row?
Yeah.
140.
That's looking pretty good for an NHL game.
That's not bad. You know what? I've never been to the rink in Winnipeg. I've never been. I went to the old one, right, with the big ends and the Queen's picture and everything, but I've never been to the new
Queen's picture
arena.
is the best. That's epic. A little closer to home, we've got Western Hockey League action at the Brand Center and on the radio. Tonight, the Regina Pats will take on the Prince Albert Raiders. We'll have our pregame show at 6:30 for Bennett Dunlop Ford. And then the play-by-play with Dante DeCaria at 7 o'clock. You can catch all the action right here on 620 CKRM. We're going to take a break and come back, and we're going to go back to rider practice. And Dave Thomas, did you say we've got Caleb Sanders ready to go? We chatted with Caleb today.
Caleb, and we can get into that conversation too if you want, regarding the offensive line.
Yeah, because there will be some changes this weekend. From what we saw today, unless something drastically changes, the lineup may be slightly different for Saturday. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. It's the all-new Sports Cage on 620 CKRM.
Hey, Rider Nation, this is Dave Thomas, voice of your Saskatchewan Roughriders. It's the playoffs. That means the games are bigger, and so is the 50-50. Huddle up to riders5050.ca and you can watch the jackpot grow and get your playoff 50-50 tickets. It's a big Rider Nation touchdown with the playoff 50-50. Go green and go all the way. Everyone wins with the Riders in the playoffs.
License number LR240102.
Sask Power is working to improve the power system in your area. In order to do their work safely, they need to shut the power off for customers in the village of Sun Valley tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., weather permitting. Again, the power will be out for 1 hour tomorrow from 11 a.m. till noon for customers in the village of Sun Valley. For updates on this outage, visit saskpower.com/outages. Sask Power apologizes for the inconvenience and thanks you for your patience.
Hey, farmers, ranchers, and producers. The Acres for Education campaign by Agriculture in the Classroom Saskatchewan is challenging you to invest in your farm's future by donating to agriculture education. Students today are our future workforce and consumers. Your donation will get students out of the classroom, giving them real-life experiences that will shape their views on agriculture, help inspire today's youth, and build a resilient agriculture future. Donate at aitc.sk.ca/Acres for Education.
Husqvarna. Sounds exotic, doesn't it?
Here he comes. I believe he's wearing Husqvarna.
Husqvarna is actually a high-end brand of snowblower available at Prairie Line Rental, but it still gets you red carpet attention. Here's the difference.
All right, I'm gonna go shovel.
Wear your toque.
Or,
girl, it's time to fire up the Husqvarna.
That's my man.
Prairie Line Rental, 600 Albert Street, prairielinerental.com.
We love Saskatchewan, and we love hearing from our listeners. Call or text us, 306-936-6262. Driven by Capital Ford Lincoln, Saskatchewan's #1 Ford retailer. CapitalFordLincoln.com on 620 CKRM.
Welcome back to the all-new Sports Cage. Connect with the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262.
The countdown is on till the CFL West Finals. Saturday, the Saskatchewan Roughriders take on the villains, the bad guys of the Canadian Football League, who are in their 6th Western Final in a row. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It all starts with our game day coverage at 2:30 with countdown to kickoff. Then at 4:30, we'll get into the Rider Nation pregame show, kickoff at 5:30, and as always, we'll wrap up with the Rider Nation radio roundtable. And it's funny, before we got on the air with Suits, he told the story about Friday night. Some stranger just came up to him, and like, people are just, there's no filter anymore, and sometimes people just don't. But he said, Rider Twitter on the weekend, 100% all good, super happy because we won. But he knows more than anybody. That could turn instantly.
It can.
The car's going 100K down the road, and we throw her in reverse. And all of a sudden, the wheels come off. Today at practice, it was a little chilly at Mosaic Stadium, but Dave had a chance to catch up to who we both agree was a guy who's just quietly built his profile on the Riders. And then you saw him on Saturday. He was all over the field, including getting a sack of Erden Adams Jr. Caleb Sanders from the Riders.
First of all, explain the emotion after last week's big win over BC.
Yeah, it was great. I think all of the guys were excited to get a big playoff win. So we knew we expected to be there. We expected to win. So I mean, we were excited, but we were expecting it to happen.
You were expecting it. There were some aspects of the game that many didn't expect, like you tracking down Vernon Adams Jr. from behind. Always had that speed burst?
Yeah, I like to think so. I like to pride myself being an effort kind of guy, just being able to run to the ball. So that's just what I was trying to show off there.
It was a bit of adversity in the fact that Miles Brown gets nicked up a little bit, so you have to take maybe a little more when it comes to the rep count that you were maybe anticipating coming in. Is that just picking each other up?
Yeah, I mean, I think any one of us three, I think we're all really good football players, so if someone goes down, we're never too worried about it. We know that someone else is going to pick up the slack.
One of the things that Luke Mullender has pointed out is your intellect and how you seem to be reading and reacting to what you see in front of you and maybe trusting it a little more than what you did at the start of the season. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, I mean, as the season goes, as you get more snaps, especially I came into the season without very many snaps at all. You get going into the game faster. The game slows down a little bit more. You can react a little faster to certain things. So the more snaps you get, the better you're going to get at it.
As you look at this week's opponent, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, of course, you know you're going to have to stop another running back that has put up some big numbers this game. Is that just a weekly challenge for this defense?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone's good in this league, so every game you got to bring your A game, and I think if we can do that, we can stop them for sure.
Does it change much up in the fact that you face a quarterback now that likes to predominantly stay in the pocket as opposed to what you faced last week in Vernon Adams Jr.?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of guys were frustrated last week because they were missing sacks, but this week he's a little more in the pocket. So I mean, we're just hoping to get home, get some sacks, and win the game.
How do you disrupt a quarterback? Because Coach Mace consistently says we just have to make that quarterback uncomfortable. How do you do that if you're not getting a sack?
I'd say just accumulating hits, just make them feel the pressure even if you're not there.
All right. Well, it's going to be a big game this weekend. I appreciate you doing this.
Thank you.
Lineman Caleb Sanders for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Here's one of the things that I think is very exciting if you're a Rider fan, and you're one of those people that worry about the salary cap. I don't know why it doesn't go up. Like, they've been kind of around that 5.1, 5.2 for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be smart. You have to catch guys on some of these new or rookie deals like a Caleb Sanders where they're playing at affordable money. And this is where the teams that have had a lot of success, much like in the NFL, you need to get that quarterback to have success before year 5 of that contract where the really big money kicks in. Like, you look at some of these guys they've got not only on offense but a defense as well, where they're still in some of these rookie-ish deals or low-dollar deals, which bodes well for the future, which means you can add pieces to free agency. And then you're not necessarily, like we've seen in the past, like a lot of teams in free agency, and the Riders have been no different. When you pin all of your hopes on some free agents, and let's say they have a down year or they unfortunately get hurt, and there's no depth behind them, it really, like, this is a prime example, and same with A.J. Allen, of good depth, good scouting, and look how this is paying off.
Oh, for sure. And again, when it comes to A.J. Allen, he's done everything and more that he's been asked of. And just as far as I go back to the conversation that we were having earlier with Arash Madani, right? And he was talking about the left tackle and the right tackle positions in Ottawa and how that really, really hurt the team. And the thing that really jumped to my mind was that's 2 offensive linemen. Saskatchewan's been through 13.
Yeah.
Like, we're
that's
pretty fortunate, right?
I do agree with Arash. They've got to get Masoli out of there, and just it's Drew Brown's team and whoever is behind him. Get rid of that distraction. Okay,
Yeah.
You don't need that. But because the Riders don't come crying to Rider Nation about having offensive line problems over the past 3 or 4 years, because we've probably had it worse than anybody else. And this year, when it was at 6, it was ridiculous. And then when it hit 10, well, this is nuts. And 13 is so Edwin Harrison, another MOP candidate, and I know that there's no coach MOPs, but you'd have to think. So when Arash is like, yeah, they lost a couple of tackles. We lost a couple of tackles times 6 and then add in 1, and we've managed to kind of do okay. But here's the thing. I think if Ottawa's tackles stay healthy, I still don't think that they're better than Toronto or Montreal at this point in the season.
Agreed.
Because it was the
Completely
quarterbacking was the issue. Once again, Saskatchewan Roughrider football on the air from Winnipeg, Princess Auto Stadium. Dave, it's going to be hostile. I don't know if you've got your wardrobe already picked out for our hostile Winnipeg, but 33,000, and we'll get rolling with countdown to kickoff at 2:30 on Saturday afternoon. It's going to be a good day, sunshine and 8 degrees. All right, that's going to do it for the all-new Sports Cage. Thanks for watching. If you're on X or you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We really appreciate that. And if you've missed any of the show, you can always find our podcasts. They're all listed at sportscage.com. Have a great night. Barney will be back tomorrow.
The wait is finally over. Year-end clear-out is back at Capital Ford Lincoln. Get savings up to $20,000 on all remaining 2024s like the Ford F-150 or Ford Bronco lineup. Drive away today with $0 down and no payments until next year. Plus, we have a giant